It's Locked On Giants Live. Traina, Tana, Dog coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traina, Tana, and Dog here. Welcome. And we're coming to you on a Tuesday night. Guys, what are we going to talk about tonight? Any ideas what we can talk about tonight?
Talk about the Yankees getting rid of Josh Donaldson.
Talk about the Yankees. Oh, yeah, the Giants made some roster cuts. We got to talk about that. Some surprises, some just some weird things popped up today, I thought, with the roster thing. So we'll talk about all that. We'll get you ready for regular season, which is in 2 weeks. Can you believe it?
Less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks.
But one more Sunday without Giant football. Then we're going into our regular season routine. Gosh.
I'm excited to jump on tonight. I'm probably going to do a roster video after this, but really excited to jump on, talk with you guys about it. And yeah, like you said, couple of minor surprises. And you know what happens. This happens every year where there's like two or three guys that the fans fall in love with and the team decides to cut them and they flip out. Nothing major here. Nice trade today, I thought, that we'll talk about.
Yes, we'll talk about that. Actually, a couple of trades we need to talk about.
Yeah, but I thought we needed a little bit of depth there off the edge. Giants certainly did that, a guy that they're familiar with within the building. So all in all, I'm just excited. We know the fifth. Well, I shouldn't say we know the 53 because they're probably going to add two or three more players via teams around the league dropping players, and I'm sure they'll add onto this roster, and they'll do some roster maneuvering, putting some of these guys maybe on the IR or the PUP. So we'll see, but we have a general overlook of what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to go through the roster. Now, again, as Tana said, the roster will probably be tweaked tomorrow. Matter of fact, I know already of some tweaks that are potentially coming down the pipe. What I'm looking for, and it's not out yet, and it's kind of important for the purpose of our discussion a little later on, but I'm looking for the NFL transaction report, which will tell me who was waived injured, who wasn't, because that's going to be important in trying to figure out some of the roster moves that are forthcoming. So if that pops up at any point during this this live stream, I'll mention it and we'll double back on there. So guys, let's start off. Let's just run down the position list. Quarterback, I think everybody kind of figured, it was going to be two guys. I mean, did anybody think that they might keep three? I know I didn't.
No, I got a little confused with the rules because some people were telling me one thing, other people were telling me another. I was under the assumption at one point that the rule was that you could carry three and the third guy doesn't go against the 53-man roster, but that's not the case. So once I heard about that, it makes no sense to carry three quarterbacks. DeVito probably will go unclaimed. And you look around the league, like all these Giant fans this past week are flipping. I saw that you wrote correct on my tweet. All these Giant fans around Twitter this week are like flipping out. Oh, DeVito looks so good in training camp. He should be in over Tyrod Taylor. Listen, Tyrod Taylor's been in this scheme for a full year. There's value to that. That's a guy with experience. DeVito's never played in an NFL game. He was an undrafted free agent for a reason. I don't see anything wrong about this. And you look around the league, there were some pretty talented guys cut, Bailey Zappi being one of them, who actually looked pretty good with the Patriots last year when given the opportunity. So there's nothing to cry about here if you're a Giant fan with DeVito. He's probably going to go unclaimed, and we'll probably snatch him and put him on the practice squad.
Yeah,
I like DeVito. Obviously, good old paisano. Thought he played well. I felt like he showed a lot of heart and grit. I mean, he played in front. He played behind a line that leaked more water than a sieve, for crying out loud. Guy was running for his life the entire time, and I liked him. But if you weren't carrying three quarterbacks, there's no way he gets in over Tyrod Taylor. Not only is Tyrod Taylor used to the system, if the Giants were to get rid of Tyrod Taylor, they're eating about $5.5 million. That doesn't make any sense. The other thing I brought up the other night, and I think this goes overlooked, I think Tyrod Taylor is a good mentor for Daniel Jones. He's a smart player. He's been in the league a long time, and he has definitely played behind some younger quarterbacks, some really good quarterbacks in his day. He's made the playoffs. So I think that his contribution goes a lot farther than just being the backup. I think he's a leader in that locker room. I think that Daniel Jones looks to him, and it just made sense to keep the veteran there over, an undrafted kid who, like Chris said, if he clears waivers, he'll end up back with the Giants. Maybe Arizona claims him. I don't know who Arizona's quarterback is, so maybe Arizona guy. I don't think that's a shock. I mean, I like them, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I just want to check real quick. I don't think Tyrod Taylor has guaranteed money, but I want to check real quick because that could also be part of the Tyrod Taylor. Does he have guaranteed money this year?
I just saw his dead cap.
Yeah, he does. $2.725 million of his salary guaranteed. So, like you said, you're not going to cut him. I mean, he's got the experience, and Dog, that's a great point about him being a mentor for Daniel Jones, and he could also be a mentor for Tommy DeVito, basically get him ready so that maybe this time next year, we're talking about DeVito being the number 2 quarterback as opposed to, Taylor, who maybe they move on from. So really no surprises there at quarterback. Let's talk running back. Now, I got to admit here, I was a little surprised. I thought Deshaun Corbin was going to stick. Instead, they went with Barkley Breida, Eric Gray, and Gary Brightwell. And the reason why I had Deshaun Corbin over Brightwell is that injury issue. And that's why, I really wish the NFL personnel report was up so I could see, who was waived injured and who wasn't. But were you guys surprised by, Corbin getting cut and Brightwell making it?
I'll start. Yeah, I wouldn't use the term surprised. I mean, at the end of the day, Corbin was an undrafted free agent last year, but I thought he looked good. Outside of the last game, but it really they weren't blocking at all. He was getting crushed in the backfield. But the first 2 games, I thought he looked good. He was running hard. He looked like he had good hands as well. So I thought he stood a really good chance to make this team. I thought he earned a roster spot. And like you said, Brightwell didn't play because he's been banged up. So I guess I'm a little bit surprised. But I have to think the reason that they kept Brightwell probably for special teams purposes. I know that Gray's been returning the kicks, but Brightwell, of course, was the kick returner last year. And I guess they feel he fits the offense better. I preferred Corbin, but it's nothing I'm going to be bent out of shape about for, an RB4 on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gainwell is pretty much kept here for special teams purposes. And let's be honest, guys, if we're down to our 4th-string running back running the ball, we're in deep trouble anyway, whether it's Corbin or Brightwell. It doesn't matter. If we're depending on one of those guys to tote the rock, we're in trouble. So, again, I thought Corbin definitely looked good in preseason. I was a little surprised. I thought that, that was one of the more surprising cuts, if there was any really surprising cuts. I thought that he would make it. But, again, I'm not going to get bent out of shape over a 4th-string running back getting cut in favor of somebody that's been on this team, for a few years, again, had a year under this system and as one of our better special teams players. So, maybe if something happens to Eric Gray, you got your kick returner in Brightwell. So, again, maybe that was a little surprising, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. And just, you mentioned special teams. It's funny because in planning this out, I thought to myself, gosh, the Giants don't really have any special teams demons. How many times last year did we see special teams hurt this team?
Oh, way too much.
I don't want to go into this season and go through the 17 games and then say, oh, the Giants lost 2 or 3 games because of special teams. I don't want to see that. I'll go ballistic if that happens.
The game against Seattle, that one.
Yeah. So I think they needed to keep guys who are purely special teams players, and Brightwell, I think, is going to be one of those core guys. He can play all 4 special teams units. Even though he's not the kick returner anymore, he can still function on kick returns, on that unit. So I can sort of see why it makes sense.
It makes sense because like Bad Dog said,
injury is the issue.
When you're talking about an RB4, they're not going to see the field unless you have a ton of injuries. And at that, in terms of being the running back. So if they thought Brightwell carried more special teams value, it makes sense. As much as I was rooting for Corbin, I get it. It makes sense.
Absolutely. And I saw Davey, I think it was Davey Anonymous posted this. He says Gary Brightwell to pup and Corbin back. Guys, once a player is off pup, I see this a lot. Pup means that you did not pass your training camp physical. Once you pass that training camp physical, if you get injured and cannot perform, it's IR or they carry you. You cannot put a player who has passed the training camp physical back on pup. It doesn't work that way. So I just want to clarify that because I see that a lot. I get a lot of questions about that. Pup, the only player that landed on pup was Aaron Robinson because he still cannot pass the training camp physical. Wan'Dale Robinson, of course, came off the pup list today. My understanding is that decision was made this morning. It was like touch and go there for a little bit, but they made that decision this morning. But we'll talk about receivers in just a minute. Tight end, guys. Darren Waller, Daniel Bellinger, Lawrence Cager. They put Tommy Sweeney on reserve non-football in illness, which I suspected would be the case. I don't think we'll see him this year at all. They cut Ryan Jones. I mean, could you see them potentially adding, like maybe to the practice squad, another tight end, given the amount of 12 and 13 and 22 personnel we might be seeing from this offense? Maybe have another tight end somewhere in reserve?
100%. Matter of fact, I expect them to, because I think there's going to be some games, specifically week 1. I've talked about it, where they may want to carry that extra tight end because you're going up against an elite pass rush. You figure you're going to want more protection. So I do think there's going to be some weeks where they want to carry 4 tight ends. So I expect actually a move, whether it be to stash somebody on the practice squad or maybe they'll make some maneuvering with their roster. And yeah, I think in certain weeks we may have 4 tight ends on the 53-man roster. So yeah, if I had to guess, I think we'll make an acquisition for the practice squad at that position.
It would make sense. I mean, the offensive line needs all the help it can get. And it's, you have a couple of those tight ends. Well, not a couple, but Darren Waller is definitely a weapon in the receiving game, not so much for his blocking. So he's going to be part of the receiving game. So if you want to keep an extra tight end out there to help chip or double or, take some heat off of Evan Neal if he's going against Lawrence or Micah Parsons or whoever it is, like Chris said, especially week 1 when you're going against, a team like Dallas who really
49ers week 3 too. I mean, 49ers got a great pass rush.
You got some pretty tough defenses early in the year, so it would make sense. And again, whatever Joe Shane does, I'm on board because the man knows what he's doing.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, so far he's gotta love what he's doing for sure. And just back to the tight end for a second. Right now I think we could probably all agree that Bellinger is the best blocker they have of the position group.
Oh yeah, Cager's not known for blocking.
Better if they could get another tight end who could block halfway decent. I mean, it's not really Waller's game. It's not really Cager's game. I just worry that if, God forbid, Bellinger can't play, what do they do for a blocking tight end?
Yeah, a guy like Myrick, had he not gotten hurt, I know he's hurt.
Yep.
But a player like that, though, yeah, I expect them to add more of a block first tight end to the practice squad. I'd be surprised if they don't. I'm going to say it. Don't be surprised if there's a 4th tight end on the team, on the roster opening night. I could definitely see them doing some maneuvering before the start of the year.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be roster gymnastics. No question about it. That's why, again, I want to see what the final NFL transaction report, how they designate these various guys. So hopefully that'll pop up before we end the stream tonight. All right, let's talk wide receivers. They went with 6. I think a lot of us predicted they would go with 7. The 6 are Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell, Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, who came off PUP, Sterling Shepard. Cole Beasley, I believe they're going to sign him to the practice squad tomorrow. So we're going to start to, once the practice squads can be put together, he's going to the practice squad. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Any surprises for you guys other than maybe Robinson coming off PUP?
My only surprise is that they didn't go with 7, just because I don't know if Wan'Dale is going to be ready week 1. Yeah. So I thought Beasley would be rostered, but obviously he's still dinged up. That's the only thing that makes sense. But even if that were the case, I thought maybe they'd go with Crowder. But maybe Wan'Dale's going to be ready to go week 1. I don't know. We'll see. But that was the only reason why I thought they'd go with 7, as far as that goes. I thought that Wan'Dale probably wouldn't be 100% a go. So they'd want to have Beasley or a guy like Crowder be that, fill in that void until such time Wan'Dale was ready to go. So that's the only reason I'm moderately surprised.
But Chris, you mentioned it before. that the Giants may only carry 6 into this game against Dallas because they're going to want an extra tight end. They're going to want an extra blocker in this game, and they might not need 7 receivers where down the line, if they feel that they can, throw the ball around or they're not going against an elite pass rush, maybe week 2 things are different when they go to Arizona. But, Wan'Dale coming off PUP was kind of surprising because I hadn't heard anything about him being close or really knowing his status of availability. So I don't think that Crowder was really much of a surprise, and Sills was not much of a surprise. So, again, maybe that's the most surprising thing. Now, I read something, Patty, that Cole Beasley, doesn't hit waivers or anything. Nobody can claim him that he's going to stay with the Giants.
Yeah, anybody who's a vested veteran with at least 4 years experience, they automatically have their contract terminated, and thus they become a free agent on the spot. Whereas anybody with fewer than 4 years experience has to pass through waivers. And the Giants, as you guys know, have, I think, spot number 26 on the waiver wire order. So that's a long wait for guys that you want, which is why Shane made some of these trades, by the way, because he
one of my favorite trades ever, mind you, because
yes,
I know we'll get into that, but
yeah, we will. We'll get into it. But I know a lot of people were screaming. They're like, "What the hell is he doing? Why is he making trades? Why is he giving up draft picks?" He's down on the waiver wire order, and the chances of him getting a Simmons probably were slim to none when you're picking 26th. The waiver wire, for those of you who don't know, it's set up to mirror the draft order, the original draft order. And it stays like that for, I think, the first 3 weeks of the season. Once teams, start logging wins and losses, then they shuffle it every week. I think it's based on your win-loss record. So obviously the team with the worst record is number 1. The team with the best record is number 32. And then I think they use tiebreakers. I think it's strength of schedule is tiebreaker. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is, but that's how they kind of work that. So just a little clarification there. But yeah, that definitely some changes coming. So and we'll see. Again, injuries playing a part of it, and we'll see how it factors in. But guys, let's talk before
about the 300-pound men. We got to talk about the 300-pound men.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts? But before I move on, any other thoughts about receivers or any other surprises that surprised? I mean, Bryce Ford Wheaton? I was really,
I mean, he got hurt, but
I know he got hurt, and I was kind of just. I suspect his injury might have saved Cam Brown. Just a gut feeling I have.
Yeah, I don't know if Cam Brown's safe yet. Because if they're gonna, because I don't think Basham's on the roster yet, technically, right? Even though they made the trade, he's not listed on the initial 53.
The trade's official now.
I know. Yeah, the trade's official.
Yeah,
but
he wasn't on the roster when it was released by the Giants earlier, but the Bills announced it, so it's been approved by the league. So
they got to kick somebody off, though, right? They got to kick somebody off the 53 to put him on.
No. The Giants had 52 initially.
Oh, okay. They had 52. Okay.
And they also announced the terms. I think the Giants gave up a 6th-round pick. It was
a swap. I know that.
Six-round pick went to Buffalo, and Buffalo sent Basham and a 7th rounder in 2025. So kind of an interesting move by Joe Shane to dip into the 2025 draft class, which just goes to show you, by the way, I suspect it anyway, this is a theory, they're getting close with this roster, because if you start trading away picks and you don't need a bunch of picks, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, I got a decent foundation in place. Maybe I'm not going to need these guys, to maneuver around or to fill holes, because I've got my foundation in place. So just a thought there. So, all right, let's talk about the 300-pound men on the offensive side of the ball, as Chris puts it. So we've got Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal,
shocker,
Peart. Yes, shocker. Guards. Well, you want to go all together? Or you want me to break them down into positions?
You just go the whole. You can just round.
Right. So we got Thomas, Neal, and Peart at the tackles. Bredesen, Glowinski, Azudu, Shane Lemieux, and Marcus McCaffin as the guards. Schmitz, and then Bredesen and Lemieux would be the backups to Schmitz. Peart surviving this roster. Are you guys shocked?
He might not survive, in my opinion.
I think he's going to make the team. I'm not surprised. I thought he would make the team. The one surprise here for me, but again, I think we got to wait to let the whole thing
The
play
dust
out.
settle?
Because I think we're making an addition. But Tyree Phillips, I thought he'd make the team. Because
Yes.
tackle guard
Yes.
versatility. He played pretty well last year when given the opportunity. But they elected to keep Lemieux. I think it was between Phillips and Lemieux for that last spot. And they went with the guy that is more a natural guard / center. Lemieux could kind of play both. Seems like they felt like they needed more attention there. But I still think they're going to make another move. But I think Parrott's going to stick. I think Parrott's the swing tackle this year, as scary as that may sound.
I think they could find somebody to replace him.
I do, but I don't think it's going to happen.
He's god awful. I mean, there's got to be something out there that's.
Well,
I mean, I even heard Carl Banks like tearing him to shreds. I mean, he just. I don't know, man. I got no faith. I'm hoping that guy sees the field. I don't want him to see the field. When you mention the backups, I really don't want any of them to see the field. I watched enough of them, and just to think that was pretty much our starting line a couple of years ago outside of Andrew Thomas. And you're talking about the backups. So the line's better. It's getting better, but that has a long ways to go still.
They need further development.
So I don't know. I was surprised that Phillips was cut, though.
I mean, again, I don't know if he was waived, injured. I never got a response back when I looked into it. Hopefully I get a response back before this pod ends, but he did have the injury. Remember, he did not play in the preseason finale against the Jets. Dable said he wasn't ready to go. So I'm just wondering if, was he waived injured to where maybe they're going to put him on IR and do an injury settlement. Yeah. I don't know. That's why, again, I also want that NFL report, which I keep refreshing the NFL communications page to see if it's up, and it's not. I don't know what's taking so long, but yeah, that was a very surprising one because Phillips could give you snaps at guard and tackle. The only thing I can think of in this case is because they figured, okay, well, we've got, we have Parrott as a tackle. We could always put a tight end if we need extra blocking there as well on the outside, but we need guys in the interior. So, instead of going with a guard tackle, which, by the way, McKethan can be a guard tackle combination.
So can Azudu.
And so can Azudu is more of a guard, but he can be a guard tackle.
He's got the stature to play tackle.
That was the thinking. Plus, like I said, Tyree Phillips' injury didn't exactly help him. Yeah. So they probably figured, okay, you know what? We need interior guys. We need a backup center. Lemieux can play center, obviously. Bredesen, can play center. That's why they had him taking those snaps throughout the summer. There was never really a competition there, like some people thought. So I don't know. I mean, I think if they're going to add here, I could see them adding another guy on the O-line, a 10th offensive lineman. Do you agree?
I think they're going to. Now, it may not be a 10th. They might still go with 9. They may get rid of somebody and add somebody. But, I think they're going to make an addition tomorrow. That's going to be one of their additions. I think they're going to add an offensive lineman. Yeah.
This question is who. And we'll talk about, some possibilities a little later on.
There was a lot. There was a lot of veteran linemen.
And there were some decent ones, too, as I remember.
Yeah, so a lot.
But for those of you who are wondering, David Turner is beside himself. David Turner, who is the guy who does the former NFL scout who does the show with me after the games, and he is not a Matt Parrott fan.
No,
you guys know how he feels about him, and those of you who don't, he basically describes him as soft. So, David Turner.
I am sure Matt Parrott's a really nice guy, but
he is.
You'd be hard pressed to find a Matt Parrott fan. Outside of his family, maybe, and friends, because he's just not very good. I mean, let's just be honest. He's been here for a few years, and he hasn't improved at all. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, he's also had injuries too, to be
right.
fair.
That's what I mean. So he's dealt with a lot of stuff, and obviously the best ability is availability. And when you struggle to begin with, and you're not getting the reps, and you're not getting that experience, it's going to stunt your growth, and he's just not good. I don't know what else to say. He scares me when he comes onto the field, and I'm sure Daniel Jones is like, oh God,
The run blocking.
Having Neil better stay healthy.
Horrible.
Thomas and Neil better stay healthy. That's all there is to it.
The run blocking wasn't horrible. The pass blocking, though, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A waist bender. He's a waist bender.
Yeah.
And I kept, and it's funny, during the Jet game, I kept saying, I was sitting next to Ed Valentine in the press box, and I kept saying, Ed, he's going to get called for a false start. You watch, because I kept seeing him jerk his hand back on his pass block. And I said, how are the officials missing that? He's doing it on every single snap. And sure enough, they nailed him for it.
Yeah.
And I said, see, I told you they were going to nail him for it. And just, we were just amazed at how he was bending at the waist, and he was getting knocked around like a rag doll. I mean, a guy that big getting knocked around like a rag doll. That's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you bend at the waist instead of, getting proper leverage on your pass set. So Matt Peart, he's still a Giant today. Will he be a Giant this time tomorrow? Your guess is as good as mine, but I would not be surprised if he is not. So, all right, guys.
Bubble.
He's definitely on the bubble for sure.
Ain't up by a thread.
All right, let's go to D-line, the big guys on the other side of the ball. We've got Dexter, Leo, Nunez Roches, Sean Robinson, Jordan Riley, DJ Davidson. Were you guys surprised that they kept Riley and Davidson?
A little bit.
Davidson, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I only had 5 on my initial 53-man roster prediction because I didn't feel like Davidson was necessary. But hey, they might look at it like Sean Robinson's he's had frequent injury problems. He was hurt at the beginning of camp. They may look at it like Leo was hurt last year. They need all the depth they could get on that defensive line, right? And injuries do happen. Davidson's clearly a guy they still value, even though he's been hurt in camp. They drafted him in the 5th round last year. And when you look from within the division, you better have a strong defensive line because the Eagles are going to pound the ball. The Cowboys are going to pound the ball. So I get it. I thought they'd go with 5, and I thought Davidson would be the odd man out, but they prioritized the interior defensive line. I can't hate them for it.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, Davidson got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say week 5 last year.
Yeah.
So basically his
Early.
whole rookie season kind of got wiped out. And if I remember correctly, he was okay, not somebody who flashed a lot, if I remember correctly. So, you make the argument that, Beavers, for example, who we'll talk about in just a moment. It's his rookie season all over again. When a guy misses that much time in his rookie year, I don't know. It's like, to me, I'm thinking, and especially since Davidson didn't play in the summer, you could say, oh, there's no tape on him. So maybe we could slide him through to the practice squad and use that spot elsewhere. So I was a little surprised with that. I knew they weren't going to do anything with Jordan Riley because Riley he played really well.
Great. Yeah.
He played well. He deserves a spot, even though he brings nothing to special teams. But, Davidson does play special teams, if I remember correctly. So that could be the reasoning there. That would be my guess if I'm trying to figure it out. But again, who knows if this is how it's going to be tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I think, special teams is a very overlooked aspect of football. Everybody looks at the offense, defense, but special teams plays a big part in it. And as Giants fans, we know that was a major weakness. It's been a major weakness outside of Graham Gano. I mean, it's been a major weakness for a long time for us. So, if you can get those are types of things that, the hidden yardage ends up there. A lot of times you don't notice that. Like just watching Eric Gray run up and catch the football as opposed to letting it bounce could save 15 yards of field position if that ball gets behind him and bounces around. It's things like that. It's guys that are on sides are not holding. There's a lot of little things that, again, don't show up in the box score per se. Just hidden yardage a lot of times. So, it's an important part of what they do. And, if they're not really going to make an impact on defense or offense, if they can make an impact on special teams, obviously want to go with the best players that can make an impact on that side of the ball or either side of the ball there, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. And this point here by Thigh 66, remember when Justin Skates Ellis was our only backup defensive tackle? That was why they carried all 5 guys. It's possible.
6 guys.
They run defense last year was a problem, and it was very, I hate to use the word soft, but let's call it what it is. It was kind of soft up the middle.
Well, yeah, and I also think they're trying to mimic what the Eagles do. You look at what the Eagles did last year with their defensive line. I think they went 6 deep, and they used a rotation, and they were able to keep their guys fresh, not only from within individual games, but throughout the year. You go back and you look at the Eagles snap counts. Fletcher Cox, their best interior defensive lineman only played 65% of the snaps. Dexter Lawrence played 77%. He didn't play the last game of the year. That's more like 80%. So I think that they want to have a deep part. They want to mimic the Eagles. They want Dex and Leo to get more out of less. play 65 to 6, 68% of the snaps, but now you're going to be fresh to be able to close out these games when it matters.
Exactly. All right, let's get into the linebacker group. Now, I got to admit, I'm not really sure where to put Isaiah Simmons. So for what it's worth, I have him with the inside guys, even though I don't know if that's going to be his spot. So for edge, I have Thibodeau, Ojulari, Ward, and Basham. Basham. Is that how you say it? Basham?
Just call him Boogie. Just call him Boogie.
Boogie. I love that name.
Boogie.
Boogie. That's Boogie, man. So I have those four guys. Obviously we talked about the trade. Anything there shock you regarding the edge guys? I mean, Zimenez is out. I'm not surprised there. Tamon Fox might have surprised me a little bit. I thought he might hang around. And then I went back and I looked at last year, and his snaps diminished as we went through the seasons or towards the back end of the season and into the playoffs. So, I mean, are you guys also surprised?
No, I think once we saw Simmons and Boogie get traded here, I think that spelled the end of Zimenez. Zimenez has been unimpressive anyway. He's another guy that's dealt with injuries, never really lived up to potential. And I think he was on his way out anyway, but I think these trades definitely sealed the deal for him. And, I think that's a big reason why that Zimenez is gone. I don't think that's a surprise. Micah McFadden's obviously a good blitzer, so you're going to want him in the system as well. And I guess we took over the show, Chris. I don't know. But, yeah, so no surprise. I don't think there's any surprises with the linebackers there.
Yeah, on my I think on my roster prediction video, I said I thought the last spot was down to Tamon Fox and O'Shane Zimenez. I picked Fox, but I thought it was a coin flip. I think I said that. And I even think I said in the video, there's a good chance that neither one of those guys make the team because I could see them making an addition for an edge rusher. I didn't necessarily think it would be a trade. I thought maybe they would pick somebody up off free agent. So, no, I'm not surprised, especially after I heard the trade today. I thought there was only room for one of them before we made any kind of addition at that position. I didn't think they were going to roster both Fox and Zimenez. So once I heard that we made the trade for Boogie, I thought they were both going to be out of a job. So, no, I'm not surprised. Matter of fact, I think I expected both of them when all was said and done not to make the team. I just thought initially one of them would, and then we would make an addition via waiver pickup. So, not surprised, and I love the pickup that we made today.
Yeah, and considering the value they got there. Now, just going back to Zimenez for a second, when the Giants didn't draft an edge rusher, remember they made the trade and they gave up the 4th round pick. Obviously, they brought back Zimenez, and I questioned it at the time. I'm like, why are you bringing this guy back? His run defense to me was the biggest problem, the biggest a blip, if you will, in his game, and it just I was surprised they brought him back, and then I said, okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the kid will step up and he'll be fine. But just the run defense. I mean, so many times in practice, I would watch him, and the running backs would threaten that edge. They would get around him, and it was like he was like diving at guys instead of just being patient. And I just, after how many years now? This was what, 4 years that he did.
That happened against the Jets too. Like I forgot who it was, Zach Wilson or who. I don't think it was Aaron Rodgers. I think it was Zach Wilson. Like he had him, and then he let Wilson get away from him. He took a really bad angle, and Wilson almost got back to the line of scrimmage. I'm like, you have to close him off. You got to take a better angle at him, at least force him out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. You can't let him get the edge on you.
That was a problem all training camp. Every time, we would watch the practices, and every time there was a running play that came around at his edge, I was like, and sure enough, boom, the running back would get right past him.
Pursuit were terrible. I mean, that's in the NFL. A lot of it is your angle of pursuit. And he's bad at geometry, I guess. I don't know, because his angles were poor.
Yes, they were.
We brought Boogie in for one thing, and that's setting the edge. That's why he's here, because we were so bad at setting the edge last year, off the edge on the run game. And that's what he's going to bring. Somebody in the chat said it. He's like Jihad Ward Jr., and he is. But we needed another player like that, and he provides valuable depth. And I think you look around this roster right now, and you look at a lot of positions on this team, and they have so many different ways that they could present looks to the opposition. You know, depending on the team you're going up against, you may play a guy like Boogie a lot more if you're worried about setting the edge, and they're going to be able to run the ball a lot. So there's a lot of different things you could do, which when you improve your depth, that happens. And you look around this defense right now, we are deep. We're deep. We have a deep defense right now. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's the truth. We didn't even get into
drooling.
What did you say?
Wink must be drooling.
Wink is drooling right now. We didn't even get into the edge rushers. Obviously, you got to be excited about Kayvon and Aziz, and the interior defensive line is the deepest part of this team. And yeah, I'm in the Bobby Okereke. I'm excited about. Isaiah Simmons is a chess piece that you could do so much with if you're a Wink, especially in a defense like this. So I think this could be a really fun and exciting defense. And I think they're going to be a lot fresher this year, like I talked about earlier with the defensive line, to close out these games when you really need to close them out. So I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about the next group of linebackers, the inside linebackers. And I use quotes because some of these guys may not just be strictly inside linebackers. So we've got Okereke, McFadden, Simmons, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin. I was surprised Cam Brown made it, but once Bryce Ford Wheaton, like I said, went on IR, I thought maybe that would save him for special teams. Mm-hmm. Carter Coughlin, not surprised he made it. He's been their best special teams player.
He was fantastic.
Carter Coughlin looked really, really much faster this year, much more confident.
Yeah,
he was
definitely
really good against the Jets. I'm like, he's making the team. Like he played really well. It's preseason.
He was the best player on the field, I think, the third preseason game. He was really good.
When you're playing, people are like, it's just preseason. This is true. But when you're playing for your job, you need to show out, he did. So well earned for Carter Coughlin.
Yes, definitely. I kudos to him. McFadden played well.
And he's a good blitzer. I think McFadden was going to make the team because he's a good blitzer. And Wink, Wink. He loves the blitz. So
yeah, definitely.
I think McFadden was going to make it.
But guys, let's talk about Simmons.
Yes. Let's talk about Simmons, baby.
Dog likes this pick. You can tell.
I love him, man.
I think we all do. I mean, he's a great fit for the scheme. How could you not?
For a seventh-round pick, can you believe it? I mean, highway robbery here.
Yeah. This is why Joe Shane is the man, because this guy was an 8th overall pick. I haven't shied away from it. 2020, I wanted to draft Isaiah Simmons, right? Because I'm a defensive guy. Obviously, Andrew Thomas was the correct pick. But a lot of Giants fans kind of shied away from I don't, because that's who I wanted. But guess what? Now we got them both. I actually made a video. Somebody brought it to my attention. January 1st, 2020. I said, if they're both there, who do you take? Andrew Thomas or Isaiah Simmons? Now they're both here. Isaiah Simmons, from what I understand, somebody sent me a big thing from a message board in the Cardinals, like message board or whatever it is. And they said he was totally miscoached there. And they scapegoated him for everything. And they just blamed him for everything. And they benched him because he couldn't cover Travis Kelce. Who can cover Travis Kelce? What Wink Martindale is going to be able to do with this guy, his athleticism. The man ran a sub-4 440. He's one of the best athletes in the draft that year. I just feel like in Wink's system, with the players around him, he can just do it. There's so many things. Yeah. And Wink likes to do a variety of things. I think Simmons could have a massive season and a massive impact for the Giants. If it's not him, he could open it up for somebody else. But think about Simmons, Thibodeau, Okereke, and Aziz on the field at the same time to go with Sexy Dexy and Leo. That's pretty damn good up front.
Sean Robinson, too. Stick that big guy in there. We got a nice front seven, Bad Dog, and I'm with you. I'm excited. I think it's finally an example of a player that's now put in the right situation to be successful, because I think Isaiah Simmons' skill set is meant to play in a Wink Martindale scheme. He kind of reminds me of a better, or at least a much higher ceiling version of a player that we picked up a few years ago, who I was excited when we brought him in. Didn't amount to anything, and that's Dayon Buchanan. But he's a similar type of player in the sense that you can use him. Yeah, a money backer. You could use him in a multitude of ways. And we remember Buchanan when he was with the Cardinals, when he was young and really good. Oh, yeah. That's the type of impact I could see him having with this team. So I think it was a great pickup for what we gave up to get him.
Yeah, spoiler alert. First, for those of you who missed it, I had Alex Clancy of Locked On Cards on the program a couple of shows ago. We were talking about Simmons and what went wrong down in Arizona. And then coming up, I think tomorrow I'm supposed to tape with him. I'm going to have Jonathan Casillas, former Giants linebacker, who's now with the Giants broadcast crew. He's going to be on with me. We're going to talk about Simmons and Basham and just all the, the roster and everything like that. So that's coming up for anybody who's interested in tuning in to see what those guys have to say. Casillas is going to know this stuff inside and out, being a former NFL linebacker. So I can't wait to hear his perspective on that. But you know,
I'm pumped about Simmons. Like that is just something I did not see coming.
Nobody saw, and here's the beautiful thing about Joe Shane. How do you remember in the past GMs, if there was talks about the Giants trade, oh, they might be trading Odell. Oh, they might be trading this guy. Shane has literally been like a thief in the night with these trades.
Yeah.
You don't find out about them until they're done.
I actually I mentioned something similar like a week ago where we used to be the team, Pat, that we would have the talented players. We would have the Odell Beckhams. We would have the Landon Collins. We would have the talented players, but we didn't have the coaching staff and the scheme and the culture to be able to maximize their tools, and we would give up on them and we would trade them away. Now it's the other way around. Now we have the improved culture. We have the coaching staff that can maximize these players' talents, and now we're going out and we're finding these players that didn't work at their previous destination.
That's a great point.
And now we have the coaching staff that can maximize their abilities. It feels nice to be on the other side of that now.
Yes.
Yeah, and a legitimately intelligent front office. When I did the reaction to the Brandon Brown press conference, I mean, you knew the man's intelligent, and unfortunately for us, he's probably going to be a GM for somebody the next few years. He's too smart. Listening to all of the avenues, and I mean, they work hard, but listening to all the preparation, all the work, and everything that they do, and everybody that they talk to, and the way the communication is, it's like these guys, and Patty, we talked about this last year, how the last regime had like a plan A and a plan B. And when that one arrived, there was no plan C. These guys have plan A, plan B, plan C.
They got the whole alphabet.
Right, and they have another alphabet. They have the Latin alphabet.
They have the numbers. They have the numbers, exactly.
These guys just do so much due diligence. And you know what else helps? Players want to come here now. This culture is different. You see a bright young GM. You see the trajectory the Giants are, and you see the coach of the year in Brian Dable. Defensive players want to play for Wink. They want to play for Kafka. They want to play here. And when you want to play somewhere and it's a change of scenery, man, these guys have huge years. So there's a reason to be excited if you're a New York Giants fan, without question. And not just for the year, but the future, because Joe Shane's going to be here for a long, many years. And you see what he's done in the draft. You see the way he signed the players. You see the trades he makes. They're smart. And he's not backloading these contracts, and he's not giving up the farm, and he's not doing any of that stuff. He's very intelligent.
And the other thing I'll say about him, Bad Dog, he's got a backbone. This dude has a backbone. He knew he was going to hear a lot of slack from a large portion of this fan base, from the broad media, the way that he handled the Saquon Barkley situation. He knew the same thing at the trade deadline when he didn't trade for a wide receiver, that he was going to hear backlash. He doesn't care. He's going to do what's right for this team. And as much as I love Saquon Barkley, he did the right thing, sticking to his guns, and he got him back on a very cost-effective deal. And Little Bad Dog loves it as well.
Hey,
How could you not love it? How could you not love it?
He's a little puppy. How you doing?
You tell him the Eagles stink?
The Eagles stink.
He's trading them well.
Raising them right,
folks.
No Giants, right?
Yeah.
Little Bad Dog is just, he's becoming a new star. Pretty soon we're going to have to create a box just for Little Bad Dog.
I know. Pretty soon. He's getting very big, very fast. I mean,
I know.
Yesterday, I brought him up in the hospital. First grader now.
Wow.
Somebody.
Wow, first grader. Wow. I remember when he was a little baby.
I know. Wow. It was insane. That's when you and I started working together, when he couldn't even walk.
Yeah, crazy.
Pretty soon he's going to be saying, "Dad, let me get the keys of the car."
And you're going to be like, "What? I don't."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh gosh! All right, guys, let's do cornerbacks.
Yeah. By the way, one guy we got to mention. I only bring it up because I know a lot of people were flipping out about it before we go to the cornerbacks. I know Bad Dog loved. We both loved him. Darren Beavers was a little bit of a surprise.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah, we got to talk about it. Yeah.
Figured we'd talk about that real quick. I think in the end it came down to two things. With the selection of not putting Beavers on this roster. One, he's probably not fully recovered from the injury last year, right? We remember a couple of years ago with Ryan Connolly. Mm-hmm. He looked pretty good his rookie year. He got hurt, came back, got cut. That was a surprise. And the other thing is, as we've talked about, with all these other positional groups along the way, it seems like that they have really prioritized special teams. What is
Mhm.
Cam Brown known for? The guy that got his role. He's one of the best special teamers on this team. So I think in the end, that's why Beavers didn't make the squad.
That's a good point. And
Agree. Because again, you'd rather. I mean, and we were fans of Beavers, no question. I wish he could have stayed healthy last year because I don't. Some guys take a lot longer to come off an ACL tear than others to be completely effective. A lot of people tell you it's 2 full seasons before they're 100%. I mean, you could see Barkley when he came off that injury was not the same Barkley as he was last year. So I think when it comes down to it, if you're looking at, again, a third or fourth string linebacker as opposed to a first string, one of your better special teams players, Cam Brown holds more value at his position than Darren Beavers does. So again, it sucks. I liked Darren Beavers. I was hoping good things for that kid, and maybe he comes back. I mean, who knows? But I totally understand the decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was talking to somebody today about Beavers, and I asked him, I said, do you think it was because he's not fully recovered from that ACL and that, maybe he looks like he's lost a little step? And the person said that it was certainly possible and that we could potentially see Beavers, if he clears waivers, maybe he comes back on the practice squad, continues to develop, or, that's assuming again that there was no setback with that knee. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we've necessarily seen the last of Beavers, but I guess we'll find out. All right. Cornerback, Jackson, Banks, Hawkins, Flott, Holmes. Holmes agreeing to take a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
Is it me, or do you guys think that they're going to add to this group, that they're going to make a swap somewhere, or maybe an addition?
I'd like to. I'd certainly like to. I thought they were going to go with 6 corners. They ended up going with 6 safeties. They went with 5 corners and 6 safeties. I thought they'd go with 6 corners and 5 safeties, especially due to the fact that it's a very young, group in the cornerback room. I thought they'd want that veteran. That's why I thought a Warrior would initially make the 53-man roster. They didn't elect to go that route. I'm with you. I would say the 2 most likely positions where I expect them to make an outside acquisition would be the corner and would be the offensive line. The Darnay Holmes thing, I mean, yeah, that's great. He pulled a Darius Slayton from last year. He came back. He knew that the only way that the New York Giants were going to bring him back was if he took a reduction in pay. And he did. I'm glad he's back. He's a veteran. He could certainly provide valuable depth. I'm glad he's probably not going to be starting. But, hey, he's a smart guy. He's a guy that's probably respected in that locker room. So, for a league minimum salary, by all means. So, I love that. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think I expect one more addition in this secondary. I think they'll add another corner somewhere.
Yeah, I have to imagine they would do that. I have to imagine they would do the same thing. I mean, this is still a little bit. It's still a work in progress, in my opinion. So we'll see. But I mean, if you can move, a Jackson to the slot, and you're going to have your 2 rookies playing, that's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome draft. Now, again, these guys may struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year. They're going against some really good wide receivers, but the fact that they've played well enough to earn the starting spots and put your best corner going into the slot, that's going to help a lot because we got beat down there a lot. So again, I nothing Shane does will surprise me at all. And I know he's probably got something up his sleeve, but I think a big reason that they kept McLeod was because he can play safety, he can play a bit of nickel, so he's a little bit more versatile. I think that's a reason that he was kept here. I don't know what they list him as, a safety or a corner, but I think he can kind of do both. But again, it is what it is. But it will not surprise me if we add to that. We could definitely use some more secondary depth.
Yeah. All right. Before I answer Thigh 66's question, the personnel report finally came out. So I just want to go over it real quick. Nobody was waived injured. That's what I was looking to see, if anybody was waived injured. But we had on the list for the Giants, Baldonado, Alex Cook, DeVito, Jamon Green, Deontay Johnson, Ryan Jones, all are listed with partially guaranteed contracts, meaning I think they got signing bonuses, if I'm not mistaken. So they will count against the cap. Usually with the UDFAs, they sign and, you don't give them any kind of frills or signing bonus or anything like that. And then if you cut them, they don't count against the cap, against your dead money. These guys are going to count a little bit. And I'd have to go in and take a look and see, what because the cap is going to, obviously the cap space is going to be affected by it. So I'd have to go and see, but there's going to be moves made. So let's let the dust settle a little bit. And I'll take a look at that maybe on an upcoming show in a day or two or something like that. I'll give you guys an update. Now, I want to answer Thai's question. Thai66. He asked, "What do you know what Holmes's pay cut was?" It's not official, Thai, but what the Giants did with Slayton last year is what I suspect they did with Holmes this year, which is they dropped his base salary to the minimum. And the minimum corresponding with the number of years accrued experience he has is 1.06 million. So that's what I think the cut was. And then I don't know if they built in incentives and stuff for him to earn it back. I would suspect they did. But I would say start with 1.06 instead of the 2.7 that he was due to make as a result of the performance escalators that boosted up his salary. So I hope.
And I think it makes sense. I much like it did Slayton last year. I think Slayton looked at the situation he had, that was being presented last year, and he knew he was going to get opportunities because our wide receiving core wasn't very good. There was a lot of injury-prone players, whether it was Galladay, Tony. He knew they were bringing in good offensive play callers. So he said, well, I'm a free agent next year. This is a good situation for me. I think Darnay looks at it the same way. He's like, all right, I'm willing to take a pay cut. I get to come back and play in an improved defense around me with all these pieces we've added in Wink Martindale's scheme, young corners. Odds are somebody's going to get hurt. If I get an opportunity, maybe I impress. And then I get a decent-sized contracted free agent next year. So I think it made sense for Darnay to take the pay cut.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also speaks to the fact that players want to be here. Players taking one-year deals to be here. They're taking pay cuts. Slayton took a pay cut last year. So I think that, again, speaks to the fact that players want to play for this coaching staff, because a lot of guys really just like, oh, just give me the money. And these guys are like, listen, I'll take less if that's what it takes. Because I think I forgot what it was. Holmes was owed almost $3 million, and the dead cap was like
2.9. Yeah.
Right. So it was almost like a $2.5 million savings if they did cut him. So I thought, and I didn't think that he really stood out or anything. Chris and I thought he might be gone anyway. He was kind of on the edge. And I thought that if they could save $2.5 million, that's probably a good reason to let him go. But when he sits there and takes a pay cut, now it doesn't really cost much. Now it makes sense to keep him. So it totally shifted things around. And again, that's our GM just being the freaking man. I don't know what to say. Better than Howie Roseman, Eagle fans. Better than Howie.
All you got to do, you could just tell from the improved culture. These guys, A'Shawn Robinson, I still think took less money to play here. I think he could have gotten something more money somewhere else. I think Slayton probably could have got a little bit more from the Atlanta Falcons, but he wanted to come back, play with the team he's familiar with. Darnay Holmes takes a pay cut. Saquon Barkley, no fuss, right? He comes in and basically plays for the franchise tag. If this is Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge's show, that's not happening. So I think it speaks to the improved culture, the winning. They know that they're headed down the right path, and everybody's trying to be in lockstep. So the disease of me was definitely proven false. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this year.
Never existed. Never existed.
I think it's funny. I see Eagle content creators on YouTube, and it's just amazing to me. And they make all these videos about all the trades that they're going to make, and you never actually see them do it. See, they talk the talk. Our GM walks the walk, baby. The Giants were coming. Look out.
Let's go.
I think Dog likes. You know what, Dog? Shane's talking on Thursday. I'll make sure to tell him how much you love him.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll pass that along because
I love him too, Patty. I love him too.
Okay, I'll tell him. I'll say my 2 live stream partners love you.
Oh, he's mad.
He's such a nice man. He's so down to earth.
It's such a change from what we've had here, though. Like
it's so nice.
An intelligent person with a 21st century analytical mind, a young GM that understands and has a clear vision of what he wants to do.
And who doesn't talk down to people. He doesn't talk down to people.
There's no ego. There's no ego.
He doesn't make you feel like you're stupid for not knowing something. You can ask the dumbest question in the world, and trust me, in his pressers, I've heard some of the dumbest questions.
Yeah.
And he's so patient. What a difference. I mean, unbelievable. So, but yeah, he's talking Thursday for those of you who are wondering. He and Dable are going to do a joint press conference. By then, the roster will kind of settle down a little bit. May not be the roster that they take into Dallas the following week, but it'll probably be closer to what it is now. So that's coming up. So, all right, we got one more position group to do. I'm not going to do special teams because, no surprises there, I would think. Safety. They kept 6: McKinney, Pinnock, Belton, McLeod, McLeod, I think, is going to do more of a going to be more of a corner / safety. Javarius Owens, Bobby McCain. I think I was surprised that they kept that many. I thought McCain might be the odd man out, and they would go with the youth movement. But in thinking about it, I could see why. I mean, do you guys have any surprises from the safety group?
No surprises. Like you just said, and I said it earlier, I thought they'd go with 5 and not 6, but I'm not surprised. McCain was the guy I left off on my prediction, but I'm not surprised he made the team. He's a veteran. He started from within the league. So, and it's a very young group. I mean, all the guys you just mentioned, Belton, Owens, Pinnock's young. I mean, they're all young. McKinney's still young. So it makes sense. It makes sense that they elected to go with 6. Again, we don't know if this is going to be the final. They may end up going with 5. One of those guys may not make the team. They may add a corner. We'll see. But, I'm not surprised. It makes sense when you think about it. And a lot of those Owens, I think, will be a great contributor to special teams from what I've seen. I mean, the guy's a hard hitter. So I think he'll be a good contributor to special teams. I'm excited to see what they do with Belton because I do think Belton's a little versatile. You could play him a little bit all over the field, but obviously he won't be the starter going in. But, no shocker. I thought 5, they went with 6, but none of the names are shockers.
I'll tell you who's out there that I just noticed, and Chris and I are a big fan. Bumper Pool is a free agent.
Bumper Pool, sign him.
I know Giants fans want to get on board with Bumper Pool, but Carolina did.
To go with Boogie Basham?
Right. Boogie and Bumper, baby. It's good.
And Nacho? They got
Right.
some creative nicknames on this team.
do.
I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Got to come up with one.
Sexy
prize.
Dexy.
Sexy Dexy, yep.
Theo the Lion. Let's go. We got to come up with one for Okereke.
Bobby
Yeah.
O.
Bobby O's not bad.
Bobby O.
Not
Very
bad.
simple,
Quan.
right?
Quan for Saquon. We need one for
Saquon.
Waller. We need one for Waller.
KT for Thibodeau or
Yeah.
Tibbs, if you want to call him that.
We need one for Simmons. We need one.
X-Man for McKinney.
Yeah, he's the X.
Yeah. Gio for Owens. I mean, gosh, the list goes on and on.
We need one for Isaiah, though.
Danny Dollars. Coined by Patricia Traynor.
You guys in the chat room can think up one for Simmons. Throw it out there, and then when I next see him in the locker room, I'll
We gotta
say,
get.
hey, we got to give you a nickname because there's just so many nicknames on this team, right? So
Yeah.
all right, guys, I see your questions popping up in the chat box. We will get to your questions. I do have to take a commercial break because I went a little bit over, but I wanted to get all the position groups in. So let me take a quick break and we'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates, right? So that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I myself have used LinkedIn Jobs to find aspiring writers for the Giants Country site that I run over on SI's Fan Nation, and the process is not only super easy, but it's a big time saver. Simply add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize whom you'd like to interview and hire. So don't spend time sorting through endless resumes and dead-end leads. Put LinkedIn Jobs to work to you today for free by visiting linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Terms and conditions apply. All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traynor, Tana, and Dog. And guys, I got a confession to make. Last night when I was wrapping up with Kim Jones, and I said, coming up tomorrow we've got Traynor, Tana, and Dog. I screwed up the order. I think I said Tana, Traynor, and Dog. I mean, how long have I been doing this for?
It happens.
Tana, Traynor, and Dog. It's close enough. It sounds about the same. Tana, Traynor.
Well,
Traynor,
that's because Tana, for those of you who don't know, he's a big shot now. Bleacher Report hired him to do some live streaming before and after games. So Tana's moving up in the world, and it won't be long before he leaves our happy little family.
No, it's just like I'm basically like a contractor. They reached out to me. They asked me to do a couple of live streams. So, cool. You know, I was just humbled that Bleacher Report would, I think the guy saw me post a tweet and he just reached out to me and he's like, I'm a talent. You know, I looked at your channel. I'm a talent, whatever he called himself at Bleacher Report. We would love for you to come on and do a live stream after the game and before the game. So definitely really cool. Great experience. And hopefully it opens up, new windows. If not, it's just great to get that recognition.
Yeah, I absolutely love it when you guys, get the recognition you deserve. I mean, for me, having done it for as long as, I have, and just, young writers and aspiring, podcasters to see you guys get bigger and better things, whether you're a writer or a podcaster, that's what it's all about for me. Because, I know how I came up through the ranks and how I had to work at it and how I still work at it. And, just if I can help along the way, and I'm not taking any credit for you, Tana. I mean, you did it all yourself, but, the exposure and whatnot that you've been getting. And of course, I've been also dropping your name around, when I talk to players and whatnot. So anything, if that helps, great. Happy to do it.
I appreciate. Yeah, listen. Tell
But I
them to
do
come on
say
with me.
too, dog.
Let's get one of those guys on. Get us like Owens. You get us one of those guys. Get him on with me and Bad Dog.
I'm working. I there's one player that I would love to have on, and I told his publicist, I said, look, we do a live stream. I said, even if he comes on for 10 minutes, I said, we'll take 10 minutes. And so they're contemplating it. Because trust me, I'm constantly asking these guys, hey, look, we do this live stream. It's very informal. It's very relaxed. We have an audience, that ranges, live chat and everything like that. I said, it would be so cool. And, we'll see if it happens. We'll see if, I keep working at it. Trust me.
As long as you're not playing the Eagles, it's relaxed. Because I get a little fired up when you play that.
I know you're going to be bouncing off the wall. Well, Dallas too. You'll be bouncing off the wall.
I can't stand Dallas either. I hate them both. I want to beat Dallas so bad week one that I might actually just come out and just talk trash to Dallas. Just I beat the Cowboys because I
must see TV if that happens.
I just want to say, I see all the people saying congrats in the chat. I just listen. Thank you for all the kind words. I mean it. It's the truth. I said it on Twitter. I said it on YouTube. I don't get opportunities like that. As minor as that may be for some people, that's a big deal for me. I don't get opportunities like that without you guys. So thank you. The people that watch my channel, the people that support me on Twitter, on YouTube, that support all of us, Bad Dog, Patty, everybody. So without the listeners, we're nothing. So
absolutely.
We say it all the time. So thank you guys.
Amen. Well said.
Question. I say it all the time.
He's sitting there, beaming with pride as he should. So congratulations to you, Papa Guzzo. You raised one heck of a son there.
Yeah, he's Italian too, so that don't hurt.
Oh yeah, but he hasn't said anything to you about shaving yet. And I don't have
because I did a live stream, when they were doing the 53-man roster, and he was in there, and I told him, I said, I got to shave tonight. So that's what I told him. I got to shave
tonight's show. So
I have a freaking professional development day tomorrow for work, so I definitely got to shave.
Well, yeah,
I'm actually dressed nice tomorrow.
Well, that's good. Harry's isn't a sponsor of tonight's show, but
you got Harry's tonight?
Oh yeah, Harry's is sponsoring some of our podcasts. So
I love I use Harry's. They're great.
Yeah, they're we've got some really cool sponsors. We've got a new ticket, Underdog. I think it's called Underdog Fantasy. LinkedIn.
There's one about the hair. I said, was that for me, Patty?
They're not on the ad schedule this week. So, and that's a credit to you guys and gals, because you guys, tune in, you watch, and, the sponsors recognize it. And that's how we pay the bills. I know, as corny as it sounds, it does help us pay the bills, and we appreciate our sponsors, and we appreciate you guys who check out our sponsors. They try and offer cool things to our listeners and viewers. I know I've got one more commercial break coming up later on in the program. That's more of a subtext community thing, about the subtext community that I run, which hopefully you guys will stick around to talk about. But guys, let's talk about free agents, potential waiver wire pickups that are out there that might make sense for this Giant team. I know the list is pretty exhaustive. It's like over 1,000 names, but anybody in particular you guys saw that you said, oh, I hope Shane, puts a waiver claim in on this guy or signs this guy?
Umber Pool.
Yeah. There was, what's his name? There was a corner. I don't think he's going to get to us. There was a corner drop that I saw.
From the Lions?
Might have been from the, I don't think it
was
the
from
Lions.
The Panthers.
Hold on, I'm gonna get you the name right now. There was a corner that was dropped that I was like, oh my god, I would love if we could get him.
Let me see.
I
think
know the
know.
Lions did drop somebody unexpected. I do know that.
I think I know who you're talking about. Let me see. Let me see if it's who I think it is. Is it? Let's see. It's not Darius Rush.
He's one of them.
Oh,
He's
is
one of
he?
the, but he ain't getting to us. But
Yeah.
he's one of the ones that really stood out. But
there was a guy from the Lions, and the name's escaping me now. Wait, where's that personnel report?
Let me look at some of the best.
I gotta see if I can find that personnel report. Oh gosh,
I remember like you just said. I remember hearing somebody from the Lions, and I was surprised.
Yeah, hold on. I know he was from the guy I'm thinking of is from the Lions. Hold on, I'm going to see.
Let's see. There's Jaron Williams.
I got the whole list here of guys that were let go today.
Jaron Williams, Colby Richardson.
Not Brandon Joseph, not Chase Lucas. Starling Thomas. That's a guy who I think had a pretty good.
Maybe that's who it was. I thought there was somebody else. I thought there was
from the Lions, or was it from another team?
Maybe it was another team.
Okay.
Let me see what the chat's saying.
I'm looking at the list here from the league. Let's see if there's any names.
Roby was a pretty big name from the Saints that was dropped.
Right.
That was one. There was like 3 or 4. There was a like we said earlier, not that they were great, but there was like a bunch of like semi-quality linemen that were dropped.
And Philly, I think, let go of a defensive back, didn't they?
Kayvon Wallace, I think, was the guy they let go of. Well,
they made a trade today. Desmond King was who I was thinking of. Cy just said it in the chat from the Texans. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Okay.
Which was a surprise. And the Colts dropped somebody too. The Colts dropped a shocker today.
Let me see. Let me get to the Colts.
I remember, the Colts dropped somebody that I was like a little bit surprised.
I gotta go up. List is so long, my goodness.
Yeah, and they ended up keeping
and there was a defensive back for the Colts.
I don't remember if it was a DB. It was a player that I'm like, wow, we should have interest in him.
All right, JK, where's the Colts? The Colts, they had to make a move today. Let's see. Why are they not coming up on my list?
I know they dropped somebody that I was like, let's see. Oh, it was. I'm sorry, it was Rush. Yeah, it was Rush. It was Rush. It was
Rush. Okay.
Yeah. That's what it was. It was Rush. Yeah.
Okay. What about offensive linemen? Because that's a position I think we could all agree that we probably want to see them add to. Was there anybody that jumped out at you? And I know there was a guy, I think, was he with Carolina?
I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing a bunch of linemen that were dropped today, and some of them were pretty notable.
Deontay Brown was a guy whose name, Panther. That's the guy I'm thinking of from Carolina. Let me see who else. Connor Galvin from the Jets, or the Lions. Connor Galvin of the Lions, offensive tackle.
That I think that was the one I heard about on the Lions that was intriguing to me, because what I heard when I listened to what a lot of Lions people had to say, at least on Twitter, he actually had the best camp of all the interior offensive linemen they were saying, so they were surprised that they caught him.
And then if you want versatility, Hakeem Adeniji. That name ring a bell? Let's see what team he's
not
with.
That one, no.
That's somebody.
But the first guy you said from the Lions was the name that I was intrigued by. Yeah.
Yeah, Adeniji was with the Bengals. He's a guard. He can play guard and both tackle spots.
Tyrone, the Patriots today. The Patriots only have one quarterback on their roster right now. How crazy is that?
I know. Well, Belichick's got something cooking up, cooking in his pot there.
That's wild, though, right? One quarterback a week before the season starts.
That is wild, but he's got something. So I mean, what? All right, Andy is. Somebody asked about Andy Isabella. I don't know. Receivers, I think they're going to.
We don't need another receiver.
I don't think they need another receiver. No. I would say corner, offensive line, not necessarily tackle, unless you want to swap out Parrott.
Tight end we mentioned is a sleeper.
Tight end, definitely. Yeah. I mean, those are the three, right? Do we agree?
Corner, line. I think that. I think
Kennard was cut by the Chiefs, I think.
Oh, wasn't the former Giant cut from the Lions too? The edge rusher.
Oh, the Okoro brothers. No, they made it.
Oh, they
And
both made it. Okay, there were rumors.
and they can thank Matt Parrott for that.
Yeah,
It's true.
there were rumors that one of the Okora was going to be cut. Not Julian, but Romeo was going to be cut. But obviously they ended up keeping him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think. Anybody else, Dog? What about you? Is there anybody that you're,
No,
thinking
I'll
of?
be honest. I didn't know. I didn't get a chance to look at any of that stuff. I get off the live stream, went to the gym, ate my dinner, and came down here. That was that was
Okay.
pretty much
All
the
right,
day
fair enough.
today.
Fair enough. That's okay. All right. I just figured, we throw that into the conversation. By the way, I see y'all saying hello in the chat. Big hello to everybody. If you're my everydayers, newcomer, in between, you're all good with me. Love you all. We're going to take your questions. We might as well start taking the questions now. So if you've been asking questions and we haven't gotten to them, just keep popping them in the chat box, because we're getting a lot of questions and feedback in the chat box. And sometimes I miss stuff. So just keep asking it, and we'll try and get to as many as we can here. So
By the way, real quick, I thought it was really cool that show you did with Kim Jones, because I remember Kim doing the Yankee stuff, and I always liked Kim Jones. So, and where did she go? She went to someplace. No, like NFL Network. I forgot where she went.
Yeah, she did the Yankees for whatever the
I
station.
remember her
Then she
being
went to NFL Network.
She went to NFL Network, and then I noticed she started kind of covering the Giants again. So
yeah, last year
that was pretty cool to see both you ladies doing a show.
It was a girls' night. It was
awesome.
It was nice, and we were having a nice chat before and after the actual taping, so it was really good. I figured, I was actually, I didn't think she would come on with me. So one day I'm in the press room. I said, "Hey Kim," because we're talking, and we talk a lot, she and I said, "Hey Kim, would you consider coming on my podcast?" She's like, "Oh, I'd love to."
That's awesome.
And I was like, I was stunned, because I didn't think she would want to come on. She came on, and she was phenomenal. I mean, I was very grateful for her for coming on, and she told me she had a great time. The show did well, from what I understand. I haven't checked the latest numbers, but the show did well on YouTube as well as on the audio platforms. And just, I like to mix it up. Some days you get just me yammering away on the podcast. Some days you get guests. Some days you get the live stream. I know a lot of you keep asking for the live stream. So hopefully we'll be doing the live stream once a week, like we did last year. I know a lot of you liked it. We have a great time when we do a live stream. But I mentioned earlier in the show, Jonathan Casillas and I, we were supposed to tape tonight, but because the roster, the initial 53 came out so late, we had to push it to tomorrow. So that's on tap for tomorrow. Jonathan gonna hopefully give us a little insight on these new acquisitions, as well as the roster moves and stuff like that. JC's really cool. So glad to have him. And then I just got another email from a publicist who offered me a whole slew of guests. So I've got to sort through that. But it's nice when they reach out to you and they want to book their people on your show. So, So just bring you different. For those of you who are new to this channel, we do different things. David Turner, former NFL scout, works with me. For my subtext community, any of my subtext people out there, we're going to roll out film review. That's going to start soon. We've got an exclusive, what we call Blue and A, which is our Q&A that I do for our subtext community people. So yeah, well, you'll find out more about the subtext in a little bit. That's the next commercial break, coming up in a bit. Spoiler alert. But let's get some of these questions in, because we have a lot. I want to kick off with JD, who wants to know about Cole Beasley. JD, my understanding, I would not be surprised if Beasley ends up on the practice squad. When Wandale was activated off of PUP, that was kind of an indication that, Beasley would not make the roster. Now, somebody earlier, I forget who it was, asked about Wandale and will he be ready for week 1? I would be surprised if he's ready for week 1. I'd be stunned if he's ready for week 2. Realistically, I'm guessing he's going to be ready closer to week 3, if I had to take a guess. Because remember, you've got that quick turnaround from week 2 to week 3.
I'm leaning more towards week. That's the point I was going to bring up. I'm leaning more towards week 4 because of that. Because it's
that's interesting. It's interesting because if it is week 4, then you got to sit and scratch your head and say, why did they activate him so quickly?
That's good. That's true.
And he would have missed the first 4 games, and you could have brought him back for week 5.
Yeah.
So, that might be something I think if I can, I might ask Joe Shane about, although Joe's probably going to see, well, let's just wait and see.
Now, I could see them I could see Cole playing week 1 if he's ready to go. If Wan'Dell's not,
They'll call him up. They'll make him
they'll call him up in the practice. Yeah, I think that's why Beasley's here to begin with. That's why we brought him in, because he's gonna. If Wan'Dell's not ready to go, obviously they didn't know when camp started what his time frame was going to be in terms of his recovery. He's the natural replacement. He's a slot. That's what Cole Beasley is. So,
right.
If Wan'Dell's a full go, Beasley doesn't have much of a role with this team.
Right, definitely. Big shout out to NY Swag 2010, who is a newcomer. Welcome to the podcast. Smash that like button, subscribe.
Swag
It is appreciated. I love this screen name, and hope you become one of my everydayers. We've got a special group of people who are here every day, including Papa Guzzo. Shout out to you, Papa Guzzo. And I think Amazing Guy is another one. Cy Bryce is another one. Davey Anonymous, I think, checks in every day.
Yeah, he's a great supporter of ours.
Yeah, I try. I've got so many subscribers, and I try to remember who's who. So if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. But just got a lot of stuff swimming through my mind. But just wanted to give a shout out there. All right, let me see. We've got Amazing Guy. Speaking of whom, will Aaron Robinson return? He's got to sit out for at least 4 weeks. Amazing Guy. Will he return? You know what? The fact that we didn't really see him running as late as, last week, I think he's still a ways off. So I would say, if I had a guess, and this is just a wild guess on my part, maybe we see him after the midpoint.
And that sucks because I like Aaron Robinson, but he just hasn't worked out. I mean, the guy's been banged up. Yeah, he's been banged up, and last year I felt like he was kind of playing out of position, and it sucks, but hopefully he gets back sooner than later.
Yeah. All right.
Real quick. Well, you can answer that first. I wanted to talk about the captains, if we could, because I know the captains.
Yeah. We'll talk.
You can answer. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let me just. How much playing time do you think Jalen Hyatt will get? Patrick, it's going to be hard to answer that because it's going to be based on game planning and strategy. There may be some times where you see Jalen Hyatt be the featured guy. There might be a week where you see Darius Slayton, the featured guy. So you're talking matchups, and I'm not there just yet. I'm kind of just now getting started on Dallas to see where they could potentially get the sweet spot, if you will. But Hyatt's not going to be somebody I think who disappears. I mean, I think he's going to get his fair share of past targets. I just don't think he's going to be consistently a 6+ receiving target type of guy.
You hit it on the head. I think this receiving core, it's going to fluctuate week to week in terms of the guys that outside of Darren Waller, he's going to get his targets every week.
Yeah.
Saquon will get his targets every week out of the backfield. They'll feature him in the passing game. But yeah, I think it's going to be a guessing game. Like if you have these guys on your fantasy team, Slayton, all these guys, like 1 week they may give you 2 catches, the next week they may give you 5. I think it's dependent on opponent and trying to take advantage of their deficiencies. So certain teams, a guy like Hyatt, they may feel like they could take advantage. I don't think it'll be week 1 because Dallas has really good corners and they got a really good pass rush. So I think they're going to look for guys more so like slot receivers, guys that create quick separation. I think they'll attack the middle of the field. But I think certain opponents, Hyatt will be more featured.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Jalen Hyatt to torch Trayvon Diggs.
I hope so.
Move. Trayvon Diggs is a gambler. And you listen, you don't think Jalen Hyatt wants to do a little something against Dallas since they knocked him coming out of college? You don't think there's a little thing? Listen, if nothing else, you bring him out there as a decoy, stretch the field and open up the middle of the field for guys like Paris Campbell and Darren Waller. But yeah, it's funny because I started reacting to like press conferences, just kind of going over what they say and giving my reaction to it. And before I even heard Dable's answer, somebody asked him, do you have a number 1 receiver? And I'm like, man, he's not going to say, yes, I have a number 1 receiver because he just changes things. He just wants the best players on the field. It's not like he's going to say, Paris Campbell, you're my number 1, or Sterling Shepard, you're my number 1. He's just going to put the best guys out there that are going to give him the best matchups, the best opportunities to win, the best, advantages in the one-on-one matchups. That's what he wants to do. So is there going to be a guy that asserts himself and becomes a number one receiver? Yeah, there'll be a guy that's, hey, he's got more receptions and more touchdowns than anybody else. But I don't think he's going to dub anybody a number one.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know if we really have a number one. We have.
Waller's
and do they need a number one?
Well, right. I mean, as a receiver, like a wide receiver, though,
Yeah.
we'd like a Justin Jefferson, obviously, but if Waller can be that guy this year, then do you really?
Waller's going to be huge. Waller is something Daniel Jones has not had, and you look at the best teams in the league. They all have great tight ends. San Francisco's got Kittle. The Chiefs have Kelsey. The Eagles have Goddard. I mean, the tight end is a very, very valuable weapon.
Hockenson with the Vikings.
Right, Hockenson. They're a very valuable weapon this day and age. And the Giants have not had an offensive threat at tight end since what? Martellus Bennett? Like, it's been a long time since you've gone, we kind of got to pay attention to the tight end. So I'm just looking at what Darren Waller can do. I think that could be – I mean, I love the Simmons deal. But I think getting Darren Waller was my favorite, move of the offseason because I just can't understate how much that'll help us in the middle of the field on 3rd down and 6s. He's a guy, a big body, great hands. I mean, he's awesome. And to go back to talking about the captains, he was voted a captain. He just got here. And the players voted him as a captain on offense. So I think that tells you what kind of person he is, what kind of player he is. And
great.
He commands immediately walking into that locker room. And I think Daniel Jones is loving it. I think Daniel Jones said, "Thank you, Mr. Shane."
It changes the whole offense. It changed. We've seen players do it. We saw Stephon Diggs do it for the Bills. It changes the whole offense, adding a weapon like that. And yeah, he's by far the most talented tight end we've had in a really long time. But not only is he the most talented, we have the most talented coaching staff that knows how to maximize his abilities. So you pair that. I mean, it's like heaven. I think what he's going to do for this offense, he's going to make everybody around him better because last year outside of Saquon Barkley, we did not have a guy you had the game plan for. Adding a guy like Waller enhances everybody. It enhances Barkley. It enhances Jones's legs. It enhances the passing game. It enhances Slayton on the outside. Less eyes will be on Slayton. Less eyes. It's just going to enhance the entire offense. The offensive line, we're not as predictable now this year, so the defense can't stack the box constantly. So it's just going to help the entire offense.
And then you look at a guy like Waller, when you can run the ball, and we know what Barkley can do, and we know what Jones can do. Those guys had, over 2,000 yards rushing between them last year, pretty close. I forgot what Barkley ended up with. He ended up with 1,300. I forgot. It was around 1,300 yards. So about 2,000 yards rushing between Barkley and Jones. You're able to run the ball a little bit. That play action or that little RPO, it just freezes those linebackers for a second and Waller's behind him. I mean, that's where that tight end can really be effective. And listen, you guys and girls that are my age or a little older, and remember the Mark Bavaro days, that was always that was always a bread and butter. The tight end right up the seam. You see a lot of that from Darren Waller this year. I'm pumped about Darren Waller.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones is going to have a massive year because of it. I'm really excited about this offense this year. If they could stay healthy, I'm really excited about this offense.
If they could stay healthy. And by the way, I know a lot of people have asked me, just real quick, and then Dog, we'll get to what you wanted to talk about. A lot of people ask me what the players think about the turf. I have heard nothing but good things about the turf. And I think I've told you guys on the show, and if I haven't before, I'll say it now. I've walked on the new turf. It is so much softer. It is so much like natural grass. And the way I know is because when I stand on natural grass for a long time, I feel it in my lower back.
Right.
When I used to stand on the other turf, the old turf, I would feel it more in my legs than in my lower back. Now I'm feeling it in my lower back. So that's, it's just, it has the consistency, the feel, the look of real grass. And the players that I have spoken to love it. Now, of course, unfortunately, there was Bryce Ford Wheaton suffering that ACL on the new turf.
Yeah.
So
it's going to
happen regardless.
Yeah,
there's no, Saquon a couple of years ago injured on real grass. There's no one turf that is totally injury proof, but the feedback I've gotten from the players, for those of you who've asked me, they like the new turf.
That's a good thing. Everything is getting better here. Everything.
Yes, everything.
From the very top to the very bottom, all the way down to the turf. We're improving things here.
Going to get better beer selection, better sausage and pepper.
And can I give a shout out to the Giants PR staff? and they say we don't appreciate them. They've done the pregame spreads have been so good.
You said that, yeah. I think you said that on another show, so you got me excited.
Yeah, I mean, I was dog. You being Italian, you would have appreciated this. They had the Mama Leone's meatballs, and I'm telling you, my Italian grandmother used to make the best meatballs. I mean, nobody could replicate them. The meatballs they served the other night. Oh my gosh!
Here comes the 5-minute
We
portion.
have to get a food sponsor on this show. I mean, Italians always got to talk about food for like 5 minutes. It has to happen.
You got to sprinkle in a meatball conversation for 5 minutes every stream. You can't go wrong talking about meatballs.
Wink loves it. You know,
I got it. We could call it the Meatball Minute.
There you go. I love it. Oh my God, I love it. The meatball, and then against the Jets, what did they have? They had Mexican. Yeah, they had Mexican. So they had beef barbacoa and chicken tinga with the churros and beans and the Mexican rice. That wasn't too bad either.
Food has gotten better here. Like everything's better. Like things are looking up. You know, when the other guys are here, you know, you were getting free medium Pepsis and you were getting
I can have all the medium Pepsis I want. That's the beauty of it.
You're getting a slice of Chuck E. Cheese pizza and a gas station hot dog. That was your spread.
But I had to throw that little, you know, behind the scenes FYI. And now people will disagree with me, I'm sure, because the halftime snack is usually like fried food. So it's chicken fingers and waffle fries or something like that. I don't really indulge on the halftime stuff. I usually get like fruit or cheese, you know, cheese cubes with crackers or stuff like that. But I had to throw that out. I know some of you guys like the behind the scenes stuff. So FYI. Dog, did you want to talk? You started to ask me something. Was it about the salary cap?
No, the captaincy, the ones that they named captains.
The captains. Okay.
Like the fact that, you know, Darren Waller, again, first year here, they named him a captain. Bobby Okereke also named a captain. And Chris and I were talking about it before. We were wondering if, you know, after Xavier McKinney had the ATV accident, if he would retain his captaincy. But I guess I didn't know how they did this. So Coach Daboll said that the players vote.
Yeah. 22 different guys got votes.
Yep.
That's crazy.
So
isn't that wild?
The offense didn't surprise me. Well, maybe Waller a little bit, but Thomas, Saquon, and Jones.
Those were locks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, they had 10 captains last year. And look, not for nothing. The captains, you know, for the coin toss, I think you can send up to 5, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 5. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 5. But the whole point of the captains, you know, as I see it, you guys remember when Tom Coughlin was here, how he had the leadership council. These were guys that were, you know, whose voices carried a lot of weight. They were like the lieutenants, and even Parcells had his lieutenants, if you will, the guys that were his guys. That if he told something to the word, he knew that they were going to get the word down to the rest of the troops. That's kind of what this is like. You know, different leadership styles. You know, Waller is a very, you know, lead by example type, but he's also there if you're a young player and you want advice on, hey, you know, how do I do this better, or how do I take care of my body better, or whatever. You know, Okereke is an observer. You know, from having spoken with him, he's an observer. And, you know,
really intelligent from everything you hear about him.
Holy, you saw that I wrote a story about him early on. He was an Eagle Scout. He made it to Eagle Scout.
He went to Stanford. He interned with Dr. Condoleezza Rice when he was in college. Super, super smart guy. Yeah.
You know, but what's cool about this leadership group that they selected, different styles, but, you know, none of them are. You know, I think back, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but remember when Antrell Roll was here? Antrell was very outspoken, and he wasn't afraid to get in your face and stuff like that. These guys, I think, if they see something, they'll say something, but they work more of a balance, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And again, I'm not knocking Antrell's leadership style because it worked, but I don't think you'll see, you know, like a Darren Waller, for example, calling out a teammate for potentially dogging it into the media.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what the chat said. I was going to bring him up. I'm not upset, obviously. Waller's a big part of this team. But I would have liked, if they were going to give out that many captains, I would have liked to see Shep get it. I can answer that one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me hear it.
Shep, I've asked Shep about that often. And
Right.
I said to him, does it bother you that you don't get voted a captain? And he says, no, it doesn't. And he says, and quite honestly, I don't want to be a captain. I says, really? Why not? He says, because I know I'm a leader. He says, my teammates know I'm a leader. And he says, it's really a title. He says, the C on your chest, he says, to some guys that might be a big deal. To me, it's not. He says, for me, it's all about respect.
Yeah.
So.
It's whatever. It's a minor thing. I'm not upset about it, but I
mean, it's a valid question. It's like, how does he not get it? I don't think he wants it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's like you don't want to be the ribbon cutter. You want to be but he's a guy that everybody knows that they can go to, and for advice and stuff. It's kind of like Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor has been in the league for over 10 years now, or whatever it is, and he still has young teammates going up to him, with questions about how to take care of themselves, how to watch film, what to look for. So sometimes you don't need the title. Titles can be, sometimes they're not worth the paper they're written on. It's about what you do and how you carry yourself. So trust me when I say Shep is regarded as a leader, even though he doesn't have the C on his chest.
Yeah. He's definitely respected in the locker room.
I think that's a big reason he was brought back here, too, was because of his leadership. And I know we talked about that last year, that, would the Giants bring him back for simply that, even though he's had a lot of injury. Listen, I'm a Sooner fan, and when they drafted Shep, I was, so happy. I mean, I hated the Eli Apple pick that year.
You and both.
I was pissed. Like, I was mad about that. More mad than when we drafted Daniel Jones. That's probably the worst draft pick. And again, it's because
is there any video of this, by the way?
There is a video of it, yeah. There's a video of that. It's on my page. You just gotta type in Eli Apple react or something. It's laced, but that's laced with F-bombs. So I wouldn't. That is pure uncut. That's in 2016. My channel was a little bit different. This before my son was born, and I kind of made it more PG-13. I'm kind of PG-13 now. Although if I watch the Yankees, it's definitely rated R because I swear a lot because they really just ticked me off. But no, that was the day after that they drafted him. But I was so pissed because of the way it worked. They knew he wanted Conklin, and Tennessee traded him and got him. They knew he wanted Leonard Floyd. All this stuff leaked out. And then the Bears traded him and got Floyd. And as soon as they got Leonard Floyd, I was mad to begin with. And then they drafted Eli Apple. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
That was a panic pick.
Oh,
it was, as was Eric Flowers, in my opinion, was a panic, a reach. So but I loved the Shepard pick. Like, I loved the Sterling Shepard
pick. I did too.
And I was like, this kid is so good at Oklahoma. I'm like, he could be like Victor Cruz. This is the boy I kind of compared to him. Like, he can play inside, outside. He's not the fastest guy, but if he gets in front of you, it's hard to catch him down. He's got great hands. He's a good kid. Like, he's a leader.
Oh,
it never worked. He had a good rookie year. He had some drop problems his rookie season, but then he's just dealt with a lot of injuries. But I always root for Shep.
Absolutely.
And hopefully he bounces back and has a good year.
Yep. Absolutely. How can you not root for Shep?
Impossible.
He's just such a sweetheart of a guy. And just, I want to see him go out of the game on his terms, if at all possible. I don't want to see him get hurt again. I'd love to see him lead the game with a ring. It would be so great. That would just be,
Yeah. If he made some kind of valuable contribution in like a big game, and like, it would be so great to see him go out, on top. I hope he gets to win before he leaves. But yeah, he's everything you want in a player. He's like Barkley to me. Like, they're who I want in New York Giants. You could tell they're proud to be here. They carry themselves well. They're leaders. Yeah, I think there's value in that. And that's why I want Barkley to be a Giant. I want him to retire a Giant, but it's got to work financially. But yeah, I love Shep. Defensively, as far as the captains go, I don't think any arguments could be had. Maybe somebody wants to say Kayvon, but he's in year 2. Dex and Leo, veterans, guys that are widely respected. Okereke, the middle linebacker.
Kayvon's time is coming. It's just not this year.
It's coming. Next year, I think Kayvon will get the captain badge because Leo won't be here. He'll probably get Leo's badge. But yeah, I mean, Adoree got it. I think McKinney got it. So my only gripe, I guess, would be probably too many captains. Like,
last year though too. I think they had 10 last year.
Yeah,
it's no different than the leadership council when they had like a dozen or so guys on the leadership council.
Yeah.
The number doesn't bother me. Some people look at it and say, "Oh my God, really? 10 captains?" It's, you can only send, I think, like I said, I think up to 5 out for the coin toss, and only one guy can call it. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just wearing that badge, on your jersey.
It's
And
an intimidation factor. You strut out sexy Dexy and Leo. Who wants any part of that? Nobody.
exactly.
Strut
And,
them.
and sexy Bex is walking down with a little bit of a swag. Not a big contract.
Gano is the man.
Mr. Reliable. I call
He's
him
just knocking down 58-yarders like he's just kicking them off a tee in practice.
And you know how modest that guy is?
We should give him a lifetime contract.
I had an opportunity to just talk to him earlier in camp, and you know how I call him Mr. Reliable, and I let it slip out. I called him Mr. Reliable, and he laughed, and he was just so modest about everything. I said, Graham, you make it look so easy.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he's just so modest about it. He goes, oh, and then he's crediting, Casey Kreider for the great snaps and Jamie Gillian for getting the ball down. And he's just deflecting all the praise that he's getting. I says, yeah, but Graham, you're the one who's got to put it through the uprights.
Best move Dave Gettleman ever made.
Best free agent.
One of. Let's be real.
Best free agent.
Listen, Gano kicked a 63-yarder against us on 5th down. I'll never forget that as long as I live. 5th down.
The truth of the matter
was like a kick in the you-know-what, right?
What's that?
That was like a kick in the you-know-what.
That one was brutal.
I bet.
I mean, again, just what a weapon Graham Gano is. It's just
you think
about so good.
You think about all the close games we played last year. If you substitute Gano for an average kicker, we might win 7 games last year. Like, he makes a huge difference for this team. Huge difference.
It is huge. I mean, you get to the 39-yard line, and you're like, the hell with this. 4th and 6, we're not going for it. We're not punting. Send Gano out there. We'll get 3 from here.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I'm looking for it in the chat. I saw somebody in the chat ask me if I thought Boogie Basham's going to be on the 53. They just traded for the guy. Why wouldn't he?
Of course he's going to be on the 53.
I don't understand where that question came from. But
I forgot to mention about Graham Gano. So he got paid last year because Kayvon Thibodeau took his number 5. This year, Isaiah Simmons did not ask for number 9. I thought he might get another bag from Simmons, but Simmons, I guess, is going to 19.
I think I saw where Simmons picked a new number, but I can't remember what the
19.
number was. Is it 19?
And I think Tay Banks is going to be 25.
Yep.
That's why you never buy jerseys.
Mark Collins.
Right. You never buy jerseys.
Evan Neal was the same. Evan Neal was 70. He turned to 73.
Right. And Schmitz is going to keep 61 for the time being.
Yeah. I loved Mark Collins. One of my favorite Giants ever, one of the more underrated Giants. That man covered Jerry Rice as good as I saw anybody cover Jerry Rice in his heyday. Man, I liked that 1990 Giants team. I loved that secondary. Myron Guyton,
Collins,
Everson Walls.
He beat the hell out of Jerry Rice. I remember that.
They were
and also in the Super Bowl.
Mark Collins. Yeah, he was a beast.
And
he's in that. And I'm pretty sure Mark Collins is in that We Are the New York Giants video, which is goated, mind you. I think that's what the kids call it, or lit, or whatever you guys say nowadays. Whatever
I think it's
slang
lit.
is. In my day, you would call that dope. 1990, but if you've never seen that We Are the New York Giants video, watch it.
I remember that. I remember when it first came out, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is so corny. Just the way they got it, because it wasn't.
Herb Welch is in it. It's amazing.
I remember Herb Welch was in it. Wasn't William Roberts in it too?
Yes, I think William Roberts, Mark Collins. It was a thing of horrific.
Oh my gosh.
It was cheesy, like you would believe.
It was so corny that it was.
It was a rip-off of the Super Bowl Shuffle. But
I like the Super Bowl Shuffle better, if I'm being honest with you. But
the Super Bowl Shuffle was definitely better.
That one was a hit. That one was a hit. Even though I couldn't stand the Bears and Punky McMahon and everything like that, but yeah. Oh gosh, now we're dating ourselves here. So a lot of our younger people are like, what the hell are they talking about, right? So all right, let me see. If we have some questions. Banks changed his number. We just talked about that. Let's see. Gano was discovered by Jim Fossil. I don't know that if that's true.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's an interesting fact.
And let's see. Here we go. I'm not sure about this question, but do you think the Giants will move the ball on 4 and 10 in a game this year in 2023? 4th and 10. That it depends on the field position. Lane. I mean, you can't sit here and say
no, unless it's desperation time, because like Bad Dog just said,
and
when you're kind of in no man's land with this team, there's not really much of a no man's land because Gano has length up to 60 yards. So you're 4th and 10, you probably have a higher percentage of kicking it from 62 yards with Gano than converting the 4th and 10. So no, I don't think we'll be, unless it's desperation time, I don't think we'll be going for it.
All right. Doug Analytics wants to know any candidates to be put on IR tomorrow. McLeod, Brightwell, Cam Brown, DJ Davidson. Davidson's not hurt as far as I know, so I don't think he would be. You know what, Doug? It's hard to say because I don't know the extent of all these injuries. McLeod, I'm told, should be okay for the start of the season. I don't know where Gary Brightwell stands, but if they have to put him down for and just carry 3 guys, so be it. Cam Brown, I know
somebody's not making this team for sure. That's on the roster.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be guys that are put on IR, and I don't think it's tomorrow they can do it. I think it's the next day. This isn't tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. I think tomorrow you set the practice squads, and then
tomorrow the Giants can make claims tomorrow, can't they?
Yeah, claims I think have to be made by, is it noon or 6 o'clock? I think I saw 2 different things. Let me look it up. NFL.
And last year we picked up Pinnock, so we might make make an impact signing.
Let me see. I'll tell you. I got the important dates up here. All right, let's see. August 30th, claiming period for players placed on waivers at the final roster reduction will expire at 12 noon. So as of 12:01, waiver claims will be announced. Practice squad can be established of up to 16 players. Let's see, that can happen after 12 noon as well. And then, beginning at 4 o'clock New York time, any player placed on reserve, injured, reserve, non-football injury or illness, or practice squad injured during the regular season or postseason may be designated for return later in the season. Okay, so that means Tommy Sweeney, who was placed on non-football illness, is not eligible to return. Okay, so that clarifies that. But yeah, so tomorrow is a big day with the roster as well. Training camp officially ends September 3rd. That's the final day of the preseason. And then I think the cap teams have to be under the cap, I believe, by September 4th, right? Or is it September 5th? Let me see. Okay, injury reports start on September 4 through 9. Yeah, I know it's coming up. So because right now we've got the top 51, and the top 51 is going to expire soon. So yeah, some key dates coming up on the NFL calendar for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, guys, I got to take one more commercial, and then we will take your questions the rest of the way out. So please don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, when the Locked On Giants podcast is over, did you know that you can continue the conversation with me, Patricia Traina, host of the podcast? That's right. Simply join our new subtext community, an exclusive group of subscribers who are looking for a more intimate setting that includes being among the first to receive breaking news and views that you won't see on my social media, podcasts, or articles. We're also offering subscriber exclusives, including a weekly community Q&A that's done via video, and a new weekly film study done with former NFL scout David Turner. And did you know that as a member of the Locked On Giants subtext community, you can also text one-on-one with me? I love hearing from my listeners, and I'm so glad to be a part of this program, and I hope you'll want to try it out as well. And you can try it out, by the way, risk-free for 14 days. If you like it, do nothing, and then you'll pay just $4.99 a month after your free trial period ends. If you don't like it, cancel before your trial period ends and owe nothing. I'm confident that you're going to enjoy the subtext community as much as I do and as much as my other subscribers do. And I hope you'll consider giving it a try. To sign up, visit joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. Again, that's joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. Message and data rates may apply. Check with your cellular carrier for details. All right, everybody, that's that subtext program that I was telling you about. And if you missed the URL, I'll have it on the bottom of the screen if you are interested. And trust me, I spend a good hour every day texting back to everybody. Try to answer everybody if I can. Sometimes if I get multiple questions, I'll just do one big broadcast. But a lot of people today, I was keeping everybody up to date. As soon as I heard cuts, I'm like, okay. And I must have sent that about literally 20 texts today. But we're going to do a film study starting. I'm not sure if it's going to be this week or next week, but Isaiah Simmons is going to be the first guy we're going to do.
Yeah, man.
And then we've got the
You
Q&A.
know what? I'm getting an Isaiah Simmons jersey. I don't care. I'm pumped about Isaiah Simmons, damn it. That's my guy.
That's his guy. That's his guy. So
he's going to destroy the Eagles. Watch. It's coming. He's going to
right.
destroy the Cowboys. Maybe I don't know how much playing time he's going to get week one. But.
Cowboys cut a player, Jabril Cox today, who's a similar type of skill set to Isaiah Simmons. I was a little, that was a guy a lot of Giants fans wanted a couple of years ago in the draft. I was a little surprised by that one.
All right, let me grab this question
Big
by
eye,
Moo.
baby. Let's go.
All right, Moo, I didn't see your question before, so my apologies. How soon can other teams grab practice squad players? Moo, it depends. Okay, hold on. If you're talking about players that are signed to the Giants practice squad, they can grab them, I think, by week 2. So they have to be on the practice squad at least 1 week. So as of week 2, I think is when they can start signing guys, I believe is how soon they can do it. If you're talking about practice squad players from last year that are on waivers, I just gave you the date for the waiver wire thing. But if you're talking about, the 16-man practice squad, that can happen, pretty much instantly. So hope that answers your questions. All right. Abe Froman asks, is Beavers gone because we picked up Simmons? I don't know if that is if you could say that's the reason per se. I mean,
I'd actually reverse it. I'd say we picked up Simmons because we knew we were getting Beavers wasn't going to make the team.
I would agree with that.
I think they knew when they made that move that Beavers wasn't going to be here. And that they wanted to add more quality to that unit.
You haven't played checkers. Joe Shane plays chess, baby.
Yes, definitely.
1 move ahead of the competition all the time. Sometimes 2 moves, probably.
Okay, let's see. Jonathan Chris asks, what's your expectations for Hodgins coming off a big year but quiet camp? You got to remember, sometimes with these players having quiet camps, that doesn't mean that they're, bad or they regress. It could mean that the coaching staff knows what they got in them, and they want to take a look at other guys. So I think Hodgins is going to be fine.
The other thing I'll say, Patty, the only time we got to see Hodgins with the first team offense in a preseason game, he looked great. He had 2 catches on that drive. One was the longest catch of the drive for, I want to say, about 20 yards. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to put up thousands of yards because, like we talked about earlier, I think there's going to be a different featured guy each week based off of the strength of the defense. But yeah, I think Hodgins is going to be a big time contributor this year for this team. He's going to be a threat in the red zone big time, right? He was great for us last year in that area. So yeah, I still think just as highly as I did about Hodgins 3 months ago.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that your exact point, Chris, in the red zone. I mean, the Giants are one of the better teams in that was a shift, being one of the better teams in the red zone. Everybody points at Daniel Jones. Oh, you only threw 15 touchdowns, but we were extremely efficient in the red zone. And that it doesn't matter how you're scoring your points, as long as you're scoring them. Now that you've added a Darren Waller, I mean, even Daniel Bellinger was a threat before he got hurt down there. Like, he had 3 touchdowns the first month of the season. One was a rushing touchdown because he was going to throw it and said, I'm not doing it, and he ran it into the end zone. And we didn't have Isaiah Hodgins at the beginning of the year. So you had a 6'4" receiver to a 6'5" tight end or 6'6", however tall Darren Waller is. And then you got a couple of really shifty slot guys down there with Barkley's ability to run and Jones's ability to run. That is it's hard to pick, like, who do we stop?
Yeah.
And that's why, Chris, you and I talk about how Bellinger could be a sneaky 6-touchdown guy because everybody's going to look for Barkley to run. And when you do that little play action from the 2, that's when the backup tight end. Oh, everybody's going to go with Waller.
Yeah.
And then your backup tight end just slips out into the corner of the end zone. He's wide open. And that's exactly what happened when they scored that touchdown. So, I mean, this offense is going to be so much more dynamic than it has been in previous years.
Inside that 7-8 yard line, I expect a ton of RPO because you want to keep all your options open with the ability to be able to use Jones's legs if things break down, the ability to hand off to Barkley or Jones to roll out and be able to connect to one of these shifty receivers. Like, you just think of all the different things they could do with all the different people. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a really valuable piece inside the red zone, too. We saw that his last game before he got hurt, the way they used him in motion at the 5-yard line. He caught an easy touchdown. Like, there's so many different weapons that
can do that with Jalen Hyatt, too. You could see those little shovel passes. There's a guy with Jalen Hyatt. I mean, there's a lot more size down there to begin the year with, Hodgins and Waller. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And when you got a guy like Kafka calling the plays, it's just a pre-snap motion. I mean, defenders aren't going to know
Matchup football.
What's that?
Matchup football. They couldn't do it last year.
Yeah.
They can do it now. Both sides of the ball.
We got depth. We got more talent. So different looks.
So keep sleeping, Cowboy fans. Keep sleeping because you're going to get a wake-up call on September 10th, and you ain't going to like it.
Eagles too.
Patty, I'm ready.
I can see it, dog. You're gonna be bouncing off the. I can't wait till we do the show leading up to the Cowboys game. You're gonna be bouncing off the walls, man.
Can't wait. Sunday Night Football.
It's gonna be awesome. It is gonna be awesome. All right, let's get some more of these questions. And Jonathan, Chris, do you think Simmons will be linebacker 2 and start, or will he be a situational linebacker for us? I think. The Giants mostly, don't they usually do, let me think for a second here. I don't know if I would plug him in as ILB2. I mean, Simmons, it's like kind of hard to plug him in. Is he going to be more of a pass rusher? He's going to play a lot. There's no doubt about it. Let me just see. Where did he line up? Where did he start?
They played him at the middle, but they moved him, though, in that game.
Yeah, but wasn't he the weak side linebacker?
Yeah, they played him off the edge a bit. They moved him around in that game, but it was only 5 plays.
Yeah. Wink always talks about a positionless defense.
That's what my answer was.
That's why when it's funny. Initially, when I wrote out my roster projection for Giants country, I had inside linebacker, outside linebacker. Well, they go and we get Simmons, and I said I called a friend of mine up. I said, "Would you put this guy in inside or outside?" And he goes, "Positionless." So I merged the linebackers together because I just didn't know where to put him.
That's why it's a great fit. He's a positionless player for a positionless defense. Like, I don't want to label him strictly an inside linebacker. I think he will line up there a lot, but I don't view this team as having a base defense. They're going to come with so many different looks. There's going to be times he's on the field. There's going to be times he isn't, based off the opponent, based off the situation. 3rd and short, he's probably not in there. You probably go with more of a bigger linebacker because you're trying to stuff the run. 3rd and medium to 3rd and long, you want him for coverage or to rush the passer. So I don't want to label it. I don't think there is a LB2. I think there's going to be a platoon there. I think the only guy that's going to play strictly linebacker pretty much every down is going to be Okereke. They're just going to have so many different looks.
Yeah, I know Rodgers got away from him because Rodgers has made a career out of that. But if you saw the speed that Isaiah Simmons, it looked like he was shot out of a cannon with how he exploded to the quarterback. And that, obviously, I love that. But man, it's been so long since I went into a freaking Giants season on, wow, like, just thinking about the future, to have a GM that knows what the hell he's doing, because none of the damn teams I root for have a good GM, except the Giants have one now. Cashman ain't been good ever. And the Knicks have had 10 million GMs, so it doesn't really matter. But I just watching the way they do things, and again, when I listen to Brandon Brown's presser, I'm just enthralled by the amount, the things that they do and everything that they cover, and just the amount of communication. He's naming guys I don't even know exist in the organization. I go to this guy for this. I go to that guy for that. We discussed this, and we went over there, and we scouted here, and we traveled here, and we did.
Very intricate the way they do things.
Very intelligent.
And
I don't want to lose.
It's organized.
I don't want to lose Brandon Brown. That's why every time I mention Joe Shane, I try to always mention Brandon Brown because he can't listen. I hate Philadelphia, but let's face it, their front office has been well run for years, or they wouldn't be as competitive as they are. He came from that. And the Bills, same thing. So we got smart minds in our front office. And, yeah, I think the Giants are ahead of schedule because technically we're still rebuilding. It's only their second year. They're trying to get their players in here. But just watching the master class.
Dog, I'm telling you, I'm going to tell Joe Shane that you love him.
I'm a big fan of Joe Shane.
I'm going to tell him.
Big fan of Joe Shane and Brandon Brown. Big fan.
If he comes off the podium and I get a chance to talk to him, which I'm sure I will, I'm going to say, dude, I got to tell you, my boy Dog and my boy Tana love you. And I just have to
say, who the hell are they?
Get him on our show. Let's do it.
Oh, you love that, dude.
I'd have a blast talking with Joe Shane.
That would be
I just listen.
Yeah.
If you want to ever shut me up, just Joe Shane. I just sit here.
No, you be sitting there wide-eyed. No, Dog. You remember the episode of the Brady Bunch where Cindy was like wide-eyed when the camera came on? That would be you.
I would be. I'd be like Patty. I'd be sitting here with my notebook going, Yup.
Yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir.
Yes, exactly.
No, Joe's a cool guy. He really is. I like him so much. All right, let's get Harlem X asks about Max Duggan. Someone we should target. They've got DeVito. They've invested this much in DeVito. I don't know necessarily if they would target him. I think there's some other needs that they can, look for. But if DeVito gets snapped up by somebody, then why not kick the tires and see? I mean, if there's nothing else, this front office, they'll look at everybody. Regardless of how
I did like him a lot.
Duggan's tough. Duggan's tough. When he was at TCU, he's a damn tough quarterback. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but yeah, I think it'll be DeVito. I think DeVito's going to be on the practice squad. He played from within the offense. Yeah, I think they're going to try to develop him, and if he doesn't work out, they'll probably draft a guy like Duggan next year to be the backup. That's probably where we're headed if DeVito doesn't develop into that by next year. I think we all could see the writing on the wall. Taylor's not going to be back after this year. They're going to save that $6 million. They'll get a guy for a very cost-effective salary, whether it's the draft or whether it's DeVito if he develops. So, no, I don't expect us to pick up Duggan. I think DeVito's going to be the 3, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I like Duggan.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think, like I said, they've invested this much in DeVito, and if they get him back, continue developing him. And if they don't, then it's onward and upwards. I mean, the good thing about this staff is they know how to develop guys. I saw somebody, and I forget who it was, somebody questioned whether Bobby Johnson was a good coach. He's fine. I mean, look, you look at the coaching and for what it's worth, yes, in the past, the Giants have had some shaky coaching. I'm not going to deny that, but also some of it is on the players too. Sometimes you get players in here and they just don't want to be coached. There was a former first-round pick whose name shall not be mentioned. I think you guys will probably guess who I'm talking about because he was an offensive lineman, and he got jettisoned out of here. So you guys know who I'm talking about. He just didn't want to be coached. He thought he would stick with what got him to the NFL, and it wasn't working in the for the Giants, and he was being stubborn. And hey, bye baby.
I honestly thought you were talking about Tony. That's what I thought you were talking about.
No, offensive.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, you're talking about Flowers, but I thought you were talking about Tony.
I'm not mentioning any names. You guys can guess and probably figure out who I'm talking about. I try not to drop names.
I just dropped it, so you don't have to.
Okay.
I was dropping that name for 3 years. I was dropping him. Terrible.
Oh gosh, let's see. I just saw a question here. This is a legitimate question. How do I feel about Dave Gettleman, or we feel about Dave Gettleman? All right. First off, as a person, I never had a problem with Dave. I think a lot of you know I'm a cancer survivor. Dave is a cancer survivor. We had that in common, and we used to compare, battle stories about, we used to compare, hey, how did your PET scan go? Oh, it was terrible. How was your MRI? And we would talk about, that sort of stuff. So on a person-to-person level, Dave and I were fine. As far as, the job he did, we can probably agree that when it came to scouting talent, when you look at the Andrew Thomases, the Dexter Lawrences, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, he left Joe Shane with a decent core of players, a decent foundation. Where Dave fell short, in my opinion, and I said this, a lot of people, for whatever reason, didn't listen to me because they thought I was a Gettleman, apologist, which I'm not. Dave did not know how to manage the cap, and it was evident in the contracts he gave out. Yeah. That is why when Shane took over, this team was in cap hell. That is why this team is still kind of in a little bit of cap hell. Dave, to me, he overbid on certain free agents. And it just seems like at times I question if he knew how to marry his stellar drafting, or his solid drafting, I should say, with free agency and the other aspects of building a football franchise. So there was some good to come out of Dave, and there was some stuff that you just were left shaking your head and saying, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So,
I'll start with my opinion today. And you obviously knew him on a more personal level than me, obviously. He's either the type of personality you love or you hate, because he came up as obnoxious. I loved his personality personally. He's the type of guy that I would love to grab a beer with Dave Gettleman. I think he's hysterical. I think he would make me crack up. I thought that he was a guy that didn't give a crap and he was going to do what he wanted to do. And sometimes you agreed with him, sometimes you didn't. I thought he was a great scout, and I think he proved that with his draft picks. But overall, he was a horrible general manager. And you look at his draft picks, some of the picks you didn't even mention. Obviously, Daniel Jones has worked out now. Dexter Lawrence looks like it's going to work out. Xavier McKinney, Azeez Ojulari look like good second-round picks. Julian Love was a good pick. Darius Slayton was a good pick.
Then you had the DeAndre Bakers.
Andrew Thomas, B.J. Hill, everybody forgets about that because he had to trade him because he couldn't build the line. That was a good pick. Nick Gates was a good find for an undrafted free agent. He was a good evaluator of talent. He was above average in terms of a drafter, and I feel like a lot of people don't give him credit for that. But in terms of an overall general manager, he was horrible. He didn't manage the cap well, like you said. The difference between him and Joe Shane. What'd you say?
He outsmarted himself.
And the difference between him and Joe Shane for me, there's many things, but the major difference for me is Joe Shane, like Bad Dog said earlier, has a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan Z. Dave Gettleman changed his plan every year. There was no direction with Dave Gettleman. That's what it felt like. And he was a very good scout. He was a bad GM. He knew how to draft. He knew how to evaluate talent, but he didn't know how to construct a football team collectively, whether, in terms of cap management, free agency, coaching staff. Some of that has to fall on him, whether it's Mara's fault or not. So I know he left some good, and I'm appreciative of the good that he left. And I'm also appreciative that we have a general manager now in Joe Shane that does not have an ego, that is willing to basically give Dave credit for those players and say, I'm willing to work with these guys because they're going to help this football team. So there was some good that came from it. And Bad Dog and me, out of everybody on YouTube, I don't consider us Dave Gettleman homers at all, but we were one of the few that I felt like gave him a real fair opportunity. It was year 4 where he lost me. Like before that, at least I tried to see where he was going. And then year 4 for him just to completely ignore the offensive line. That's where he lost me.
That's where he lost me. Because look, I always try to be fair as well. And, some people accuse me of being a homer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fair. All right. And when I saw what he was trying to do with all those free agent signings, and then the Kyle Rudolph signing, somebody mentioned that, signing the guy despite the fact that he needed surgery because it was a classy thing to do. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? This approach didn't work in 2016. It didn't work for the Eagles when they did it. What makes you think signing all these free agents is going to work now?
Yeah.
That's not how you build. Now, it's possible that Dave was under pressure, that maybe, ownership is like, Dave, look, we got to do something. We got to win. We got to turn it around. And Dave figured, okay, you know what? I'll just keep printing up money and stretching out the cap, get veterans in here. So this way the learning curve is less. But it didn't work because then you look at the coaching staff and then, Oh, by the way, how many times Gettleman and Judge butt heads?
Yeah.
Quite a few. People don't realize it. And when
So
you
they're one of the same.
when you don't have that synergy like what Dable and Shane have, I keep talking about this. I keep talking about how Dable and Shane are of the same voice. It's like they can finish each other's sentence. All right, that's why you see them. They're talking on Thursday to the media. The two of them together, one voice, one message, finish each other's sentence. That's what was missing with Dave, and before that, Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like Judge and Gettleman have the same type of personality where they wouldn't admit they were wrong. Like their ego would not allow, I messed up here. They would blame somebody else. And that's, to me, I kept saying, Joe Judge, you can keep throwing people in front of that bus, but eventually that bus is going to run your ass over too. And it did. I liked Gettleman's personality. I'm an obnoxious guy. I can respect another obnoxious guy. His Boston accent always cracked me up. And I agree with Chris. Chris and I were after year 3. A lot of guys wanted him gone. I said, listen, if he gets fired, it ain't going to hurt my feelings. If they keep him back, I understand. Like, I was on board. Let's give him a 4th year. He took up a really bad situation. But, yeah, when he did not address that offensive line, and he came in here saying he was going to fix it, and he did not fix it, it was hard to trust anything he said. Also, when he comes out and says, we're going to rebuild and win at the same time, you can't do that. So, again, that speaks to Chris's fact that he had no direction. He didn't know how to manage a cap. So, yeah, he could scout talent. He was good at that. It didn't help that his coaching staffs were terrible. I mean, they didn't know how to get.
But the GM didn't hire the coaching staff. I don't think a lot of people know that.
And the other thing I'll say, and I'm not making excuses for Dave. I'm glad he's gone. I think we have a much better general manager now. The other thing I'll say that I think hurt Dave and Daniel Jones was the firing of Pat Shurmur. I think had they kept Shurmur for another year, you would have completely wiped it clean if it didn't work out. But when you, like Bad Dog said, when you had a coach and a GM on a different wavelength, they didn't come in together. They didn't work. It's chaos. So it was a mistake. It was a mistake it was a mistake to move on from Shurmur after 2 years. I think you would have been able to blow it up a year sooner than they did if things didn't work out. Or maybe things would have started to work out. We'll never know. I don't think they would have, because I don't think Shurmur was a very good head coach. But I think that was another thing that was a mistake, I think, by Mara to move off of Shurmur after just 1 year by Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, again, just because you're a good scout of talent doesn't make you a good GM. There's a lot more that goes into a GM than just drafting. And he couldn't trade. His trades were terrible. His management of the cap was terrible. His coaching staffs were terrible. And again, he would never admit that he did anything wrong. He's always the smartest guy in the room. He wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. And I still don't know what the hell kind of direction he was doing. I don't know what he was doing. I still don't know where he was going. I love Saquon, but if you're going to rebuild, you don't rebuild with a running back. That's not how you start.
Well, it was short term. I mean, I know what he was trying to do.
Not to interrupt you. I swear, I keep saying this myself, and this is just pure whatever. I can't think of the word. Because of what they did to Eli Manning in 2017, when they benched him in favor of Geno Smith, I swear and I could be completely wrong. I swear Mara had so much to do with the Barkley pick because they wanted to atone for embarrassing Eli Manning, letting McAdoo embarrass him, which was McAdoo's ticket out and Reese's ticket out of here. But I swear they drafted Barkley because they wanted to try to win for Eli. And it
should have gotten an offensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. The reason why is because Eli was getting up there in age. They were asking Eli to throw like 600 times a season, which was unheard of, for a guy getting up there in age. So they figure, okay, let's get this guy a running game and take some of the onus off of him. And Dog, you talk about, how Joe Judge threw people under the bus. I'm sorry. McAdoo was the king of throwing people under the bus.
Oh, he sucked.
he was the king of that. And he lost that locker room. I couldn't believe it. I mean, first off, the first year when they had the success, you don't think that all those clippings that were written about them didn't go to their heads?
Of course they
you had Frazier the Lion and all this other funky stuff. And I remember standing there and we're listening to this and we're like, oh, this is going to be an interesting year. Because you could just see it. And then, when he started losing the locker room and guys started snipping at each other and he had no answers. And then the Eli debacle was the final straw.
That was horrible. When they gave up,
you don't know the half of it.
The game that they gave up was against the Rams. I remember they lost like 51-13. And I just remember, I forgot who the receiver was. It was like 3rd and 30 from like midfield, and the guy scored a touchdown in like a wide receiver screen. And they just stopped chasing him. I remember them. I'm just watching them quit. I remember seeing Landon Collins just pull up. I'm like, this team is not playing for this guy. They quit. And that's the worst thing. Because I'm like, listen, I understand you're a bad team. You got injuries. The Rams are really good. But as a professional athlete, you can never just quit. And I'm like, this team is done. And that was the low point of.
Let's be real, Bad Dog. They did the same thing to Eli that they did to Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Tom Coughlin, they made him the scapegoat. When it was, he was part of it, but it was a lot more than Coughlin. Obviously, Jerry Reese was heavily involved in that. And then when they benched Eli Manning for Geno Smith, if you did it for Webb, that's different. You want to see the rookie play for 2 weeks and see what you got, that's different. But when they did that to Eli, it was a disgrace. It was the same thing they did to Tom Coughlin. It was a disgrace. If you were going to fire Coughlin, you should have fired Reese too. You should have just scrapped everything. So
absolutely,
it is what it is. We live, we learn. But yeah, it was ugly the way things ended with the with that regime.
And there was just so much politicking involved there. But thankfully, and thank God they didn't make the same mistake, because there were rumors. I don't know if you guys remember that once Dave retired, there was rumors that they were going to keep Judge and they were going to promote Kevin Abrams. Yes. And I remember saying to somebody, I said, my God, they're going to make the same damn mistake again, aren't they? I said, they can't make the same mistake. I said, they've got to go outside the organization because the Giants way isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
Get a fresh perspective.
I did a video at the end of the year, almost like not crying, but upset. Like, I'm like, because I heard those rumors. I'm like, I can't do another year of Joe Judge. Like, I'm like, I cannot watch that again. And when Mara had, what's that?
No, go ahead, finish your point, and I'll tell you.
I was just going to say, when Mara had that admission of this is really embarrassing, and I'm embarrassed for the organization, and this just isn't good. And we've set Daniel Jones up to fail. And it's almost like he took a step back and go, I really do have to kind of change. I'll be in charge, but I got to kind of step back and let these guys do their job. I'm going to go out and get really good, smart, younger front office people. And I'm going to get some dynamic guys. I'm going to take them from successful organizations, guys with experience in successful organizations, and I'm going to put them here and I'm going to let them do their thing. And it's worked.
Yeah. And just, to your point, if you remember, the rumor was Judge wanted Kevin Abrams as the GM. Kevin Abrams, was like, Chris is laughing.
Well, that why you wanted Kevin Abrams, because it was more job security.
Exactly. Because Judge
knew if they brought in an outside GM, he was gone. Nobody was taking his job. Judge probably
saw himself as a Belichick in training and said, okay, you know what? Kevin's not really a scout. I mean, Abrams did some scouting, but he's primarily a cap guy. So I'm going to tell him exactly what I need and make him look good. And he's going to get me what I need. And I'm going to run the personnel show. It wasn't going to work. That's not how the Giants have built winning franchises.
Judge was smart. And Judge is a smart guy. Definitely a smart guy. Sure. Judge was smart enough to realize, and I had people during this process. I knew Judge was gone the second before the year ended, as soon as the press conference ended, because I said if they're going to truly do this the right way, and at that point I knew they were going to. You weren't going to hire Kevin Abrams. You were not going to sell the fan base on Kevin Abrams. And if you were going to hire a respectable general manager from outside this organization, you are not going to say you have to keep Joe Judge as the head coach off the year that they went through. So I think Judge realized that, and that's why he was pushing for Abrams, because he said, if they bring in Joe Shane, I'm gone. He knew it. The writing was on the wall. So
of course,
that's what happened.
I got to be honest, Joe Judge is responsible for some of the best content I've put on my channel. Without that. He really is. There's sound bites that people have been saying about Joe Judge. The mock press conference I had, the video with the bag on my head. Like, I swear to God, I got to give him credit for that. If nothing else, he provided me with some of the best content I've ever put out in here, because I don't know if I've ever in my life been more frustrated with one of my favorite teams, be it the Knicks are frustrating, but I'm almost numb to the Knicks at this point, although they're turning it around a little bit. But the Yankees, I didn't really deal with that very much, dealing with it this year. But God, Joe Judge, the moment he threw that challenge flag week 1 against Denver, that was one of my favorite lines of all time. Joe Judge, you don't even know the rules. You run laps, Joe. You run laps. That's one of my favorite things of all time.
Look, I like Joe as a person. I thought he was a great teacher. I still remember when he held the media sessions. It's like, submit 5 things you want to talk about, and I'll run film and teach you. And I thought those were valuable to watch film with the coach explaining stuff, and they were really, really good sessions. Joe's problem, and this was the same problem with McAdoo. He said Joe only knew one way how to do things, the Saban Belichick way. Just like McAdoo, all he knew was the McCarthy way. Yeah. Dable, even though he worked for Saban, even though he worked for Belichick, Dable has been around. He worked for a totally different head coach in
he was in Miami. He was in Buffalo. He was
Miami, and I'm drawing a blank on the Buffalo head coach.
He was with the Jets. He was with the Jets.
Dable has been with different coaching staffs. Yeah. So he's able to take a little bit here, a little bit there. And also, Dable's not afraid to be himself. He's not.
I
could see this guy. I know where the coach's office is. The coach has the corner office in the second floor of the facility. I could see Dable on the phone, feet up on the desk, leaning back in his chair, maybe a cigar and a beer in his hand, just doing business, watching film with the clicker in the other hand. That's what I envision. I mean, I'm not saying he drinks on the job, but that's the type of, just very laid back and just very, it's himself. What you see is what you get. Yeah. He's got a sense of humor. I think he tries to be helpful. I mean, he's not going to give you state secrets. You can kind of tell if he likes you, if he doesn't. But I like this guy. I respect him, and I respect the fact that he admits that he doesn't know everything. Yeah. The sports science people, they're smarter than I am. The defense.
It's the same thing with Shane, by the way. Like you said earlier, he's not a know-it-all. He's
And that's so, know what you know. That's the biggest piece of advice I know I've ever gotten, and I give to people all the time.
And I've said it several times. Last year, it was the vibe I got with Dable. Judge, they both learned under Belichick. They both learned under Saban. Judge was impersonating Belichick. Dable learned from Belichick, but he was his own man. That's the difference. This guy is comfortable in his own skin. He's a player's coach, will still, bring those Belichick-like qualities as a coach. He's you've seen it. He's a guy that he's not going to play you based off your draft position, based off your salary. Belichick was the same way. He got the most out of players. He identified the strengths of certain players that were throwaways from other organizations. Danny Woodhead's a perfect example. Wes Welker. Like, you could name so many others, but he identified what they were best at, and he maximized their ability. That's what Dable, that's the feeling I get with Dable as a coach. It's only been 1 year, but that's the vibe you get. But he's doing it by being his own man. Joe Judge was and Judge may end up being a good coach one day if he gets another opportunity. He was young.
I think he can be.
Maybe he'll learn. Hopefully it'll never be here.
It'll never be here.
But he'll be a good college coach.
He wasn't ready. And he was trying to impersonate Belichick. He wasn't being his own man.
No.
And he has really bad taste in beer. That makes me mad too. Right down to his beer. Coors Light, Joe. Come on. You're not watching your figure. Get you a nice freaking Belgian beer, a stout.
What kind of
little kick to it, Joe?
Kind of pizza did he order? Where did he order? I wonder if he ordered the pizza from where the Giants get their pizza.
I remember the Coors Light thing, and I'm just like, "What are you doing? You can't."
I'm not a beer connoisseur, so I can't comment on that. But I can comment on pizza. And I wonder if I don't remember where the boxes came from. If they went to the pizza place that the Giants have an account with, which is not too bad actually, or if he just went to someplace local by him.
I won't kill him. It wasn't Domino's or pizza.
No, it wasn't Domino's. Yeah. But I know the Giants PR staff. They give us pizza on Fridays, and they go to this pizzeria that's pretty good. I want to say it's Napolia, I think it's called. It's really good. Now it's no. Oh, what's the place out in Long Island that Big Daddy used to bring the pizza from? There's a place out in Long Island that supposedly makes really good pizza.
Where on
And
Long Island?
oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the name.
There's a lot of good pizza places on Long Island.
No, let me see if I can remember it. It's Big Daddy used to bring it. Big Daddy was an insurance guy that had a lot of Giants as clients.
Chuck E. Cheese.
I can't remember the name of it, but the pizza was really good. He would bring it all the way out from Long Island. I think Central Long Island. Oh gosh, it'll come to me. Watch, it'll come to me tonight when I'm in bed. I'll remember it. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good because they would bring it in, and it was by the time you brought it in from Long Island, it was obviously you had to put it back in the oven and heat it up.
Right.
But, oh my God, they brought it back to the medium one time. Oh, it was like the best pizza I've ever had.
Really?
And no, it wasn't.
Oh, maybe it's Umberto's maybe.
Umberto's. That sounds right. Yeah, I think so.
Well, there's a few of them now. The original one was in New Hyde Park, but yeah, there's a few.
Yeah,
of
I think it was Umberto's. Yes,
yeah, Umberto's is really good pizza.
Yep. So they just he would bring a bunch of different pies in, and we would get some of it, and unbelievable. But all right, we're getting on food again, right? we can never get through one of these shows without discussing food because you got 3 Italians here talking food, So, all right, let's see. Do we have any other questions? If not, you guys are doing a show after this, right? Or not tonight, not after you guys know I have a show coming up.
No. Well, I don't even know. Bad Dog. What, Thursday? Friday? I don't even know. What.
Maybe better Friday. I might draft, so I can't do it Friday.
Thursday. All right. So that'll be on my channel this week.
Then we'll start moving them to Fridays because we don't want to do the show during Thursday night football.
Thursday night football. Right.
Friday.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. Amazing Guy asked if DJ likes Shermer and Judge. I know he likes Shermer. Well, Daniel will tell you he liked both of them. Daniel's never going to admit, no, I didn't like this guy.
Of course.
If you watch the body language, I think Daniel was a little bit more fond of Shermer than he was of Judge.
The player you really saw it in terms of the body language was Saquon Barkley. I was so depressed watching that team that last year, but I got even more depressed when I would watch Saquon Barkley in the press conferences after the game. Like it almost felt like he didn't love playing the game anymore. Like that was the vibe you got in the press conferences with them. And then next year was a complete 180. You could tell he was in love with his coaching staff. He loved the organization. So that was one guy that really stood out to me was Barkley.
It's got to be rough when you go into a game knowing you have zero chance. No chance.
Yeah.
And I mean, what kind of message is it? I mean, Joe Judge was on his way out anyway, and then he had the whole clown show press conference, which I swear he got that to me because I was calling the Giants a clown show, and I even said the Giants are a circus and Joe Judge is head clown. But the back-to-back quarterback sneaks is the lowest.
That was giving up.
That was it. And I said,
he gave up.
Yeah, what kind of message is it? He's talking on both sides of his mouth. He's talking about fundamentals and execution and being tough and playing tough and punching the nose for 60 minutes. And here he is running back-to-back quarterback sneaks saying, I quit. I'm done. I'm not even going to try to win this last game of the year. I quit. And I don't know who the guy was in the audience that was, you're a B, Joe, you're a B. I'm like, he had to be related to me because that's exactly what I'd be screaming at him too. It was just so bad. And I was very, very young during the Miracle in the Meadowlands. But I know that was the lowest point for the Giants back in 1978 when Herman Edwards picked up that fumble because Sarchuk didn't kneel on the ball and him and Zonk were on the wrong page and the ball's bad. Eagles win. It changed things. Sims got drafted the next year. Taylor got drafted 2 years later, and they became a really good team. This back-to-back quarterback sneaks, in my opinion, was the modern-day Miracle in the Meadowlands, where that is just absolute rock bottom. You kept waiting for them to hit rock bottom. How much lower can they go? Minus 10 yards against passing yards against the Bears. Like getting shut out, losing 31-3, whatever, just back-to-back quarterback sneaks was it. That was the rock bottom. You can't come back from that. And what would they lose 22-3 in that game or 22-10 or whatever it was?
And he overruled the calls because they wanted to call something. I think Freddie Kitchens was the offensive coordinator at the time. He overruled them. He basically said, look, we're not going to be able to make it. How Look at the message you send to your team. At that point, I think that was the breaking point that they realized they could not go on with him as head coach. I'm surprised he didn't get fired.
I honestly thought the breaking point, the first time, I thought he was coming back until that press conference where he really broke down. Like that
was the message to Mara.
Yeah, that was the first time where I'm like, that he's done. Like that he can't handle New York. The pressure's gotten to him. The trolls have gotten to him. And the trolls in his profession, I say trolls because Bad Dog and me deal with trolls. His trolls are the media and the fans. And you
I trolled the hell out of him.
Yeah, and you could tell that he had been finally broken. And when you're in New York, what did you say?
I said I felt a little bit for him because
I did too.
But then again, Chris, part of the problem was that when the ship started to sink, instead of relying on all hands on deck, he felt like he had to save the ship by himself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and you read the transcripts from, say, for example, Thomas McGahee, to me, it was pretty clear that McGahee's like, okay, I'm just here. I'm collecting a paycheck, doing what I'm told, and it's Joe's show. And if Joe wants to do this and I don't, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
And, he just dropped little verbal.
It's just such a better environment now. It's crazy how 1 year could change so much. And it has.
You have a head coach that's not ego driven. I mean, is he a hothead at times? Absolutely. I mean, Dable can unleash a string of F-bombs like the best of them. But
I'd give him a run for his money.
But I don't know about that, dog. But you also see Dable. How many times do you see him go up to a player excited, go, yeah, baby, that's the way to do, and he gives him a hug and
just confidence. It's just confidence.
And so for every F-bomb he might drop at a guy, he'll give that same guy 5 pats on the back and say, "That a boy,"
And he just knows when to pull the strings and when to show, like when he got in DJ's face after the interception, or in the playoff game when Slayton dropped the ball, when Slayton was pissed off, he went and consoled Slayton. Like he just knows when to pull the string. I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, absolutely. Just like Parcells. All right.
I love the Big Tuna. That's my favorite coach of all time. Parcells is my guy because I love those guys. I don't know how encouraged. Like Parcells, I was still pretty young when Parcells was there, but Parcells is incredibly tough. I don't know how encouraging Parcells was because I just listened to him and Sims. And Sims, the one thing I loved about Sims was he didn't back down either. Like Sims was tough. Like Phil Sims was a tough quarterback. And maybe this is just, I mentioned this in the live stream or on a video. Maybe this is just what the Giants quarterback position is. Sims started out his career slowly, had a lot of injuries, played poorly, and then got really good. Pro Bowl, Super Bowl MVPs, underrated, no credit. Eli Manning started off really slow. Both of them are first-round picks. Obviously, the Giants traded for Eli. Eli came with the name, started off slow, won a Super Bowl, a couple Super Bowl MVPs. People say Eli's overrated. I'm like, how can a guy be overrated when all you do is say how bad he sucks? How is that possible? Oh, Eli's not a Hall of Famer. What? And now you got Daniel Jones. Same thing. Drafted 6th overall from a small school in Duke. Struggled his first few years. Doesn't put up Pat Mahomes numbers, but definitely improves. Now he actually has a team around him. We'll have to see what he does this year. But nobody wants to give him credit either. Oh, he's a bottom tier quarterback. I mean, that guy, I forgot, from the Herd, whatever his name was, whose shirt was just worse than his take, if that was even possible, was trying to tell me that tell us that Cooper Rush is better than Daniel Jones. That's just you're either dumb or you're just being an idiot. I mean, one or the other. Either way, you shouldn't be on a format like that if you're really saying things like Cooper Rush is better than Daniel Jones. So maybe the Giants, they just don't want to give Giants quarterbacks any credit. I don't know what it is. But Daniel Jones, who I was hard on.
They have to admit that they were wrong for earlier takes.
Listen,
so they're willing to die on the hill that Daniel Jones is trash, because then that would be like, oh, well, I said initially that he was terrible.
Right.
And I don't know about you guys, but last I checked, it's not a crime to admit that you're wrong.
We're human. Always got to be wrong.
say
Listen,
I was
if
wrong.
you're
I
gonna make
looked at the
takes and you're
situation
gonna
and move on.
if you're gonna make predictions and takes, you're gonna be wrong nearly as often or as often as you're right.
I
That's
mean,
that's the
you
way it
guys
works.
are perfect examples. You guys went ballistic when they
I
drafted Daniel
I
Jones.
hated
Now
the pick.
you admitted that you were
And
wrong.
I'll be the first to say,
Yeah.
I let the media impact the way I felt about that pick when it was made. Right, and I'll never do that again. I might flip out with a pick if I don't like it, but the media definitely influenced the way I reacted to that pick, and that's just the truth. But I'm not a guy that's gonna. I don't care. I want the team to be good. I don't care when I'm down on a player or I'm down on a pick. I want that guy to be successful. I hope I'm the biggest fool of all time. With the reaction that I had, I want Daniel Jones to be successful, and when he gives me a reason to back him, I'm gonna back him. I felt like I've been as fair as I can with Jones before last year. I went into last year saying I'm gonna give this guy an opportunity with the new coaching staff, and he proved a lot of people wrong. I didn't think they were gonna make the playoffs last year. They did, and people who don't give him credit for last year don't know what the hell they're talking about. For him to do what he did with that team, he maximized that roster, and I got a lot more belief in Daniel Jones than I did. Just going back a few years ago, I think he's going to be the franchise quarterback for this team. I think he's going to be the quarterback here for the next 10 years because I think he finally has the pieces in place, mainly the coaching staff and the general manager that are going to be able to build up this team appropriately. And when I look at Jones, what is there not to like? I see a guy with incredible work ethic. I see a guy that handles the New York media incredibly well. Like it was almost like his personality is meant to play in the, like he's an Eli clone when it comes to that. Like, and that's great. That's what you want. He's got all the tools. He's got the necessary arm strength. He's got the mobility. And as they improve this team around him, he's only going to get better. So I have no reason to think that Daniel Jones isn't going to be the franchise quarterback here. It's what I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, again, I do YouTube for fun. I'm a fan. I mean, I am not, I'm not in the media. I don't have to be professional. I don't need to be unbiased. I'm just going to give you my opinion. And as a fan, right after the game, I'm not happy because the Giants have been a part of my life for 40 years. They're there every Sunday. It goes through my bloodlines. Like they run in my blood. I've seen really good teams. I've seen really bad teams. I was sick and tired of losing. And not just losing, but being an embarrassment. So, yeah, I took some of that out on Daniel Jones. He's the quarterback. That's what happens. Even Phil Sims said in '86 when Brian Gumbel or Greg Gumbel, one of them interviewed him and said, what do you hear? What do you think when you hear Sims can't lead us to a Super Bowl? And Sims says, that's just the life of a quarterback. I do the best thing. I'm not saying I'm a Joe Montana, but I do the best I can do. And I think if the Giants can win, they can win with me. I remember that. So same thing with Daniel Jones. I was hard on him. I felt like the criticism was warranted. He did not play well, but I think I let the losing blind me in the fact that in 2019, when I'm at the Jets game with Chris, and I literally say in the third quarter, it's a 30-second video, and I say, if Daniel Jones ever gets an offensive line in front of him and a real coach, he is going to be dangerous in the NFL. I said this is rookie season. Mm-hmm. And I let all of it blind me. And then when I actually saw a good head coach coaching this kid, I'm like, I lost my own vision is what happened under the dark murkiness and the clouds that were the Giants. Well, those clouds are lifted and we're not even seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're out of that tunnel.
He just feels like a Giant to me now. He didn't feel like a Giant. I mean, he was a Giant. I loved him. He's the quarterback. Last year, at the end of the year, he's a Giant now. Like, he feels like a Giant to me. Like, when you think Giants, you think blue-collar guys, you think guys that kind of get disrespected. They're not the flashiest. That's the way they've always been. That's the way Sims was. That's the way Eli was. They're just guys that get the job done. They're tough. They're gritty. Daniel Jones just feels like he's meant to be the Giants quarterback to me now. I got full faith in him going forward.
And Chris, we talked about this before, too, and maybe, Patty, you'll agree. This day and age, with fantasy football being what it is, people don't actually – I feel like so many people don't actually watch the games. They just look at the stats. Oh, my God, 15 touchdowns. Well, he sucks. How do you give him $160 million? But they don't actually watch what he does in the game. And somehow they fail to realize that for 3/4 of the year, Richie James was the man's number one wide receiver. And there was a plethora of injuries at the receiving core, the offensive line. It was a new coaching regime, and this man beat Aaron Rodgers. This man beat Lamar Jackson. This man knocked off the Titans. This man knocked off Kirk Cousins in the postseason. I mean, crushed Minnesota in the postseason. And what do they say about that great performance, Patty? Oh, Minnesota's defense is terrible. No credit given to the guy.
None. But he's going to start to get it this year. I think
Because they have to admit they were wrong. That's the whole thing. Who wants to admit that they're wrong?
Yeah.
You know, the talking heads, it's like they pick a hill to die on. And it's like, come hell or high water, this is the hill I'm going to die on. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to go down swinging, and I'm going to start reaching for reasons to show that my point is right, even though you know deep down that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
okay
so excited.
to admit that you made a mistake.
I'm so excited to see Daniel Jones.
But that's
why,
that's why I feel like, channels like ESPN and FS1, to me, they're dying. I don't know why that's so difficult. Hey, I was wrong. I feel like you get a lot more respect when you can sit here and man up and go, or woman up or whatever, and say, hey, I got that take wrong. He's made a believer out of me. I thought about this, and, you look what he did, and you look at the way he's leading the Giants. The guy had nothing around him, and now you see they're starting to build around him. They have confidence in him. He has confidence in them, and he could definitely have a big year. I can understand they say, I'm not willing to say he's a top 10 quarterback yet. Let me see what he does this year. I want another year. I want to see him.
Yeah, that's very fair.
That's a fair take. But to just blatantly disrespect him and go, Cooper Rush is a better quarterback, like that type of thing, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
I have to address this. I see this comment keep coming up in the chat. I got to address this one. Joseph Santiago, Mara gave up control. Joseph, let me set the record straight with you here, because I see you keep saying that Mara gave up control. John Mara is one half of the ownership. All right. When they hire the coach and the GM, they leave it up to the coach and the GM to work together to build the team into a winner. It is not necessarily Mara telling Joe Judge, you have to hire Jason Garrett. You have to hire this guy. Does he make recommendations? Yes. But does he enforce his recommendations on guys? No. He'll make suggestions. Yes. But he doesn't force it. He didn't tell Dave Gettleman, you have to draft Saquon Barkley. You have to draft Daniel Jones. You have to trade up to get DeAndre Baker. He doesn't do that. He's one half of the ownership. Does he take an interest? Yes. The only time Mara will step in and overrule, I should say, his GM or his head coach is if they're going down the wrong path to where they're bringing in a criminal or somebody who's going to potentially embarrass the organization. This is not about Mara giving up control or being a control freak. Everybody seems to think that, or a lot of people seem to think that. It's not true. I'm telling you, I'm in the building. I know a little bit about how the behind the scenes stuff works. Mara is not the control freak like, say, some of the owners,
Jerry Jones, Davis.
Days, Snyder when he was owner of the Commanders. I mean, those are guys.
I agree with you overall. I mean, you obviously know better than me. You're in the building. But I agree with you. I don't think he's always been like a guy that's been over controlling. I do think he's made bad decisions in the past. But
of course he has.
But I think it's improving dramatically.
He absolutely has made bad decisions.
But I do think it's improving dramatically. But I agree. I don't think he's nearly as hands-on as a lot of other owners. I agree with you on that.
Case in point, when he got rid of Jerry Reese, he should have swept the whole thing out.
Yeah.
That was an opportunity to press the reset button, and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
There was that loyalty thing. That's a trait he inherited from his father. God rest his soul. I get it. When Dave came in and then you started firing the head coaches, and Dave was
that was another thing. Dave
at some point he had to learn, look, yes, John, you want stability, but what you have right now is not stable. You got to sweep the whole thing out, start from scratch, bring in people from the outside, from a winning organization that have a clue, and just see and let them run things the way they see fit. Only intervene if they want to bring a criminal in.
Yeah, that to me was Mara's biggest fault. If you're going to say one, I thought he was too
loyal,
safe, and loyal. Like, he only wanted to work with guys that he was familiar with, that had worked from within the building. That's why Reese got the job. That's why Gettleman got the job. That I think is a fair fault and not for John Mara. That I will say.
Absolutely. Bad choices, yes. But
But
to
he's
say
learned,
that
it
that he
seems,
was a
at least.
control freak,
Yeah.
you're not going to
Yeah, I
convince
feel
me of
like
that.
you're discussing the Yankees. That's the way I feel about the Yankees right now. That Hal
Yeah.
just plays safe and just wants to keep all the guys that are there, not like go outside of the box. They're going to fire Aaron Boone, but that's not the major
That's
problem.
what we did with Shermer. You're not making the problem
They're
better.
playing it.
Yeah.
You got to
Mara,
They
for what it's worth, I mean, did he not stand in front of the reporters when they hired Shane and Dable and say, we've done everything possible to screw up Daniel Jones? He took responsibility for that because they did screw up Daniel Jones.
Not just Daniel Jones, by the way. All of a sudden, everybody gets better. Dexter Lawrence gets better. Andrew
Yeah.
Thomas gets better. Julian Love gets better. They all get better.
Come on. And again, some of you are probably going to say, oh, you're a Mara apologist. No, I'm telling it the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's how it is. I mean, I'm just amazed at some of the perceptions out there. It just, back in the day, Wellington Mara, before they hired George Young, there was a matter of control, and did Wellington lose his way a little bit and everything like that. That you can make a case that Wellington was more of a hands-on. John just, he takes an interest. He comes to the office every day. He goes to practice every day. But for the most part, he gets out of the way of the GM and the head coach. Now, do they meet once or twice a week to find out what they're thinking and what they want to do? Absolutely, because he wants to know, and it's his right to know as co-owner of that team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's, I just had a, I kept seeing that, and I'm like, no,
you got to set the record straight. I like it. A little passion.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
it. Passion for Patty. I like it.
That's right. Not very. I'm amazed I'm getting this fired up after the long day I had. But all right. Speaking of long days, guys, I think if we missed any of your questions, just pop them in on the comments section. I can always pick them up. Or I'm assuming we're going to do this show again next week before Dallas, right? We've got to do this show next week, right, guys? I would hope so. Yeah. So just join us next week, and we'll do this all over again. I'm sure Dog is going to be bouncing off the walls because it's.
I'm ready.
Dog's ready. I can see your eyes.
I'm ready to go.
Your eyes. And Tana's sitting there with a big grin on his face.
Oh, I'm jacked up. I can't wait for Sunday Night Football. I can't.
Oh,
wait.
it's going to be. It's going to be
Cowboys in that video. I'm going to let everybody know exactly why I hate them, and that's just the way it goes. You're going to find out. The Eagles always get the brunt of it. Cowboy fans are all just.
I got
that video next week. You're going to get why I hate the Dallas Cowboys, and it's going to be good.
I'll tell you something real quick before we say goodbye. So, one of my colleagues over at Fan Nation is coming in for the game. He covers the Cowboys. And he texts me last night. He says, I'm sorry, Saturday night. He goes, you got a minute? I'm like, yeah. I'm just getting ready to go to the Giant Jet game. So he tells me, he says, if I pay you like an Uber driver, he says, can you drop me off at my hotel? Because last year, apparently, he got stranded in the MetLife Stadium parking lot for 4 hours. His Uber driver never showed up. So I said to him, yeah, I don't think that should be a problem. I said, where's your hotel? It's down by Newark Airport. And I'm sitting there going, oh, crap, what did I just agree to? Not that I wouldn't give the guy a ride, but Newark Airport, to drive through Newark.
Oh, Newark's the worst. Newark is the worst.
That hour,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God, what did I just agree to? So I'm like, hopefully he's not too deep into Newark. Otherwise, I'm dropping him off at Newark Airport. He can take the train to his hotel or get a taxi from there because I ain't going into the heart of Newark. But anyway, it was like, how are you feeling about the game? And I'm like, I'm not thinking about it yet. Let's get the roster set. But
yeah,
I've seen some of the, the work and stuff, and I'm like, they're feeling pretty confident, like they're going to spank the Giants. So I kind of hope that the Giants spank them really hard.
I'm excited. I think we're going to win that game. I really do. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if we lose. Dallas is very good, but I think we're going to win.
This is hilarious.
Win.
That's good. That's good, Ethel.
I'm not that old. I don't have accidents.
Oh, come on. You don't get the joke, man.
Oh, I get the joke. But we're good. We still hit the potty. We still hit it. Oh, by the way, I have to say this is funny. So I don't know if it was today or yesterday. It was yesterday. I was reacting to Daboll's press conference. And you know how it has closed captioning?
Uh-huh.
For whatever reason, when you asked the question, it said potty trainer.
Oh,
It's
Jesus.
potty trainer. And I started laughing. I'm like, the Giants really needed a potty trainer a couple of years ago because there was a bunch of you-know-what laying around there a couple of years ago. You know, it was great. Your question was great. I mention this all the time when I do this. I'm like, you always notice how Patty's questions are like they're outside the box. They're not what everybody else asks. It's like she thinks out of questions. And I said, the one thing you told me was just because you're there doesn't mean you need to ask a question. Like, seriously, I feel like some people just feel the need to ask a question. I'm like, why are you asking that? I mean, he's not going to answer that, or he's just going to go, yeah. We're confident in the guys you had. What do you think he's going to say? Yeah, I don't like our offensive line going into week 1. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I write down my questions as I think of them, and then I sit down and I say, okay, can I answer the question? See, it's a little different being a writer. If I can answer the question and know what the coach is going to say, then the question goes out of my notebook. But if it's a question that I can't answer, then I leave it in. And, sometimes I know I might annoy people because I changed the course or the flow of the presser. I know for a fact I've annoyed a couple of people in the past, but I don't care. I mean, I've got a right to ask questions just like they do.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just being me, guys. That's all I can be. But anyway, guys, it's been a long day for me. I know a long day for you guys. So I want to thank you for coming on. We will do this again next week. I want to thank you all for coming to the live stream. We're going to continue on this week with Locked On Giants. Like I said, Jonathan Casillas and I are supposed to connect tomorrow to do a roster review show. By then, we'll have some of the tweaks. We'll know the practice squatters. So we'll be able to, talk a little bit more fluently about the roster. Hope you will check that out. And Friday, just so you know, Friday I'm off because the Giants are off. So I'm taking Friday off.
There you go.
So
enjoy your day off. And real quick, I can tell you this. I think it was Ethel that said that if we beat the Cowboys, she will have to put down papers. Questions all over the place.
We're gonna beat the Cowboys. We're gonna beat the.
Yeah.
I saw Harlem talking in the chat. Harlem, couple of years you won't be saying that. Daniel Jones is gonna be a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Mark it down. Mark it down. You heard it.
All right.
I believe that. Improve this Giants team. He'll be better than Hurts.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great night. And again, we'll see you tomorrow on the Locked On Giants podcast. And be sure to check out Tana and Dog, their live streams, their shows. And have a good one, Giant fans.
Peace.